everyone. Welcome back to Poppin' In with Alexa and Molly. I'm Alexa.
I'm Molly.
And today we are gassed up on espresso martinis, courtesy of Molly. Is that the right
Could
term?
you maybe not start off with us saying we're gassed up?
Is that not we're jazzed up?
We're just energized.
Yeah. As always, I've had too much caffeine and I won't sleep well later.
Well,
I'm like sweating right now.
That's fine as long as we are not sleepy during this. And as friend of the pod Emily would say, we're sleepies.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a sleepy tonight.
No, I don't either. I want full Alexa, full Molly.
Yeah.
Full moon.
Because we have a lot to talk. Full moon party.
Ooh.
We have a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah,
so,
we actually
today.
do. Today.
Sorry.
Tonight, today, whatever time you're listening to it, whatever. So the first thing we want to get into, I actually this was not on my radar. You were the one who put this, this came across my desk courtesy of Molly Golson Esquire.
Yeah.
And it's the Ruby, is it Franke? Ruby Franke?
Ruby Franke, yes.
Yeah.
It's spelled Frank, but it's pronounced Frankie, which is very confusing to me.
There's a documentary called The Devil in the House.
Which, could they have
that's like
worked a little harder at that name?
Yeah, I was surprised that how many people came on and talked about this talked on this documentary, and I'm like, I wonder if they knew the name when they said they would do it, because I don't think like I would.
Really?
I'd be like, especially
Well,
like her
I just
husband,
didn't
who's
think-
like, I still love her.
Okay,
And he's
we'll
like,
get into that.
Yeah.
But I didn't think of it as like offensive. I just was like, that's a stupid name. Unless it's a reference to something.
Maybe.
Devil
I don't
in the
know.
House. Like there was one, sometimes I just like hear documentary names and I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah.
It was like, there was one about the, what's that religious family?
The Duggars?
The Duggars, and like the name, it was like Happy Shiny People or something, and I was like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
good, that's a good one.
That's good, yeah.
Sometimes they're good, and then other times it's like Devil in the House.
Yeah.
Really.
But I did like this documentary. So, for a little bit of background, if you don't know, Ruby Franke is a internet personality, I guess, like a content creator via YouTube. She started making videos, I think it was in 2015, of her and her 6 kids. So their handle was 8 passengers.
Yeah, because it was her and her husband and their 6 kids.
Yeah. And she like really just took off in popularity at the time of like kind of like mommy vlogging and stuff, like really started to like, I guess, escalate. And she started out with just kind of like, people would say like, you know, the videos were kind of like choppy or whatever, and then they got like more curated. But as the years went on, people started noticing more like concerning behavior of the way she was like disciplining her children, and also just the amount of content she was putting out on her children. They put out it's something like 13,000 videos or something.
Yeah. Well, they started to make, and just to give kind of context, they're a Mormon family.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole thing was they wanted to just make like wholesome videos of like real family, like how a real family of 8, you know, chaos, whatever, but make it like wholesome, because like we're living in dark times, and they wanted to like put just like joy and happiness out there. You know, when people say that,
yeah, it's
you
never
know where it's gonna go.
The thing is, whenever people are like, I am going on social media to make things look real, it's like, well, it's never real, because there's just a layer of like, what do you call it, like projectionism onto it, you know? And so obviously things, if you didn't know, like I hadn't heard about this, but if you didn't know, like long story short, things went south very quickly. Like it's like sort of slowly and then all at once.
Yeah.
Where it was revealed like she kind of joined this, people said it was a cult, but it was really just her and this one woman who were like,
well, so what happened was one of the kids, and again, she would use her kids to like, you know, as the face of the video. So she had like her 2 oldest, they were kind of the money makers essentially of the family, because she knew if they put like these 2 older kids on the videos, they would make a ton of money. Well, long story short, because like a lot of the kids like probably had like crushes on like the
older
boy.
one.
Yeah. So there was a boy, I forget, his name was Chad, I think.
yeah,
So Chad, he was kind of like, you know, he looks like a little like
he's
surfer
hot.
dude.
He looks very like in sync, like Backstreet
And
Boy.
and so I could see like, you know, as like kids are watching these videos, like I could see like why like he probably did bring views. So that was her whole thing, was like he brought a lot of views. He started to resent that and kind of, you know, because as a kid who's like forced to work all the time, because this was essentially their chore. And also I really want to quickly,
and their lives,
and like, but it's like they didn't have like, okay, not only did they have chores where they had to clean the house, because they did do that as well, they also had to like, everything they did was filmed, which is what I think I said about the Gabby Petito thing, where it was like, it would drive you a little crazy if everything you're doing is filmed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so...
But it's a documentarian's dream.
It is. That's what I was saying, too. I was telling Matthew that, too, because, like, we said that about the Gabby Petito documentary, but, like, they had so much unused footage.
Yeah.
And so they were able... I was like, oh, gosh, they probably, like, hit the jackpot when they got that.
Because I was telling Chris that, too. He came in, he was like, how do they have this footage of her? And I was like, she was a YouTuber. She just, I guess... Like, I don't know how they got access to it.
Yeah, I was confused. So it seemed, I took it as, like, the family had it, but then it seemed like the producers were showing the family the footage for the first time at some points.
Yeah.
So maybe the producers somehow got a hold of it. Not sure how they would have been able to do that.
I would imagine it's something where, like, this family sends, like, a zip file, and it's
they're like, here you go.
Yeah, whatever. And then maybe some of it is, like, oh, this is the first time I've, like, seen this again.
But the reason why it's so captivating is because, and why I think, like, the producers were like, oh, hell yeah, because she would, at some point, she'd be, like, filming, and then she'd go, shut up, to her kids or whatever, and like her demeanor just instantly would change in between the scenes, like in between footage.
Yeah.
And so it was great B-roll for the documentary because it showed kind of, you know, quote unquote, like her devil side or whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, long story short, the kid Chad would act out because he was starting to get tired of being, like, forced to work.
Right.
And they hired this therapist who was, like, this, I think she worked with all these different, like, all these Mormon families.
What's her name?
Jody Hildebrandt.
Yeah.
And Jody would, like, run these, like, groups, and this is actually, I remember I was literally, like, unloading the dishwasher when they were talking about all this, so I was kind of checked out when they were going into all this, but I think it was, like, she would run therapy groups, like, classes.
Called
and they
Connections with an X.
Connections, and they had these recorded, so that was also, like, how'd they get a hold of this stuff?
So it's super interesting. So Jody Hildebrandt, I think, is where it really, like, I think okay, so with Ruby Franke, I think she always had maybe these tendencies of, like, cruelty towards her children, but then you introduce this, like, therapist person who comes in and, like, heightens it all and really, like, brainwashes her, I think.
Brainwashed her, but I was gonna really quickly say it wasn't, like, when you said it was a cult between the two of them, I mean, she did kind of run a cult, like, there was a group at one point, like, people would come to her classes. She made so much money.
It was upwards of, like, $30,000 a month.
When they show her house, you're like, what?
And it used to be, like, she was sanctioned by, like, the LDS church and stuff, and then it came out that, like, actually her license had been revoked at one point. LDS actually didn't, like, sanction, like, they were like, hey, don't use her or whatever, but she would say, like, oh, you know, if you Google me, you're going to see these things online, like, none of them are true, or, like, here's the reason behind it. Yeah. And so Jody Hildebrandt's whole, like, philosophy was that people are, what's the word? It's like a D word.
Demonic?
No. But anyways, it was like she had these principles that she taught that it, like, doesn't, it's one of those things, it's like typical cult language where it's like, this is a word that, like, you don't really know what it means, and then they turn it into it. And, like, one of the things was, like, she definitely, like, kind of hated men in a way and would always target them, but it was basically all about obedience and, like, getting rid of this, like, it was like discontent or something behavior, which part of it was like, it was interesting when she listed off, it's like, if you watch pornography in any sense, at any point, you technically have an addiction to pornography. If you, one of the things was like being overly lustful towards your spouse, like being overly sexually attracted to them.
Yeah. She kept saying, like, lust is different than love, and, like, lust is, you know.
Which is interesting because it just made it sound like, okay, you just don't really want people to, like, be having sex, sort of, even if they're in a marriage, which is so interesting.
It was very clear to everyone, because they were also interviewing people who were friends with the family and who were friends with, or who were part of the groups at one point, the classes that Jody taught. It was very clear that she hated men. Like, just to, you know, kind of sum it all up, she, like, really, and so Ruby's husband, I forgot his name, actually. Kevin. I think it's Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin was in these classes, and, like, she would target him, and she would kind of, like, but then at one point she was like, Kevin, you're doing everything right, like, and then that kind of built him up, and he was like, it felt great, you know, whatever.
But then it switched because at this, there's, like, a certain point where it's, like, during the pandemic, and they think that literally, like, it's the second coming of Christ.
Right, they were doomsday preppers.
Yeah, they're doomsday preppers, and Jody thinks that, like, her and Ruby are, like, people who are, like, here to, like, spread the word of God. They were chosen by God or whatever.
Yeah.
But then Jody thinks she's being possessed.
Oh my God.
Also.
Y'all have to watch this documentary just for this scene alone. It was, the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it was like literally she'd be like, no, like they were like, oh, she started talking in different voices. I was like,
it's her voice just deeper.
Like, have you ever seen, this is a weird thing that I have seen, like recordings of people doing like, what do you call it? Exorcisms, where it's like, oh, that's crazy that voice is coming out of that person. I was like, that's just her voice. She's just being like,
it's the funniest
she's
thing.
Mine.
No, she's literally like, they show her, because again, they're filming this. I don't know why they were filming this, but what she was starting to have possessions, and it was just her being like, she's mine. And she started like hitting herself, and her face is like getting red, and she's like holding her breath. Yeah. Like, she's not possessed. No, she's just not. Faking. And you can see, like, I think it's Ruby like holding her or whatever. I think they didn't show. But, and so they used that. And so, like, it got to the point where she was being possessed so badly, she had to move in with the family.
Yeah.
And then it got so bad that apparently
with the Franke
family,
they're like, "Hey, come stay with us. We'll take care of you during these possessions."
So she moves into. They kick the older daughter out of her bedroom because she's about to go to college, but still, they kick her out of her bedroom so Jody can move into her room.
Yeah.
It got so bad at night. Apparently her possessions got worse at night. So Ruby ended up telling her husband, I'm just going to move up to the room with her and stay with her because I can help her at night.
Also, meanwhile, you need to know that at this time, Jody Hildebrandt is still the son's therapist.
Yes.
And doing
so the therapist is moving in with them.
Yes, and doing like the online couples therapy like that we were talking about before, while the couple, Ruby and Kevin, are in these sessions. And literally, like, there's another couple who's in the sessions, and they say, like, the daughter told them one time, like, yeah, did you know she's doing it from our house? My parents are in the next room.
Which they weren't supposed to tell. They had even said, like, yeah, don't let anybody know that she's moving in with us. But the daughter, like, immediately told people. But I thought it was funny when they would show the classes, like, the recorded sessions, because her camera was off.
So here's what I think they did with that, because if you notice, also Kevin's face wasn't moving. I think they took a picture of him, and they put it on so it was like I think these were like vocal recordings of her sessions, but I don't think they were audio recordings. So I think they probably took, like, made it look like it was recordings, but they blurred out the people's face, but she didn't have her face shown, so they just took the audio, and then they just took a picture of Kevin and put it onto the recording.
Why wouldn't they just put a picture of her then?
Probably because Kevin consented to it. I don't know.
Well, Jody's whole being is in the documentary.
Also, like, if they just put a picture of her, that's weird that she's talking and it's just a picture of her. Like, it worked to be just a still picture of Kevin because he wouldn't be talking in the recordings of the chat.
So I kind of think
that's what I thought was happening.
You could be right, but I thought I could see people moving and all the other stuff.
They are. I think those are, like, not... I don't think they're actual recordings. I think they reenacted the recordings and put Kevin's picture in one of them so it looks like he's in there.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But I don't know if that's
because
true.
At one point they show Ruby and Kevin together in a video. They do. I remember.
Yeah, interesting.
And I just thought it was funny because that was the specific time where I was like, she's in their house and they're just in different rooms. And I thought it was funny that she had her camera off, but everybody else, whatever, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so she moves. So so clearly, like, it's very implied that these two had maybe a relationship.
Yeah, relationship. Jody and
Ruby. And so, okay, so that's where it kind of, like, all started. And if you don't know, like, long story short, basically, like, Kevin got, like, cuckolded, like, out of his house.
Yeah.
They essentially got to the point, they kicked Chad out because Chad was watching porn. So at 17, he got kicked out of his house.
And the dad had been watching porn. I don't think, she said he was a porn addict. I think it's probably like he watched porn sometimes. Like, whatever. Like, not a crazy thing.
Right.
And they kicked him out for like a year, and they were like, you need at least a year away from your wife. Like, no contact with your wife before you can start rebuilding a relationship. Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, people would say, like, he's brainwashed or whatever. I just think he is an enabler.
I don't think anyone will watch, and I've seen, like, a lot of comments on this. I don't think a single person is watching this documentary. He's also doing interviews on, like, Good Morning America with Chad, and, like, everybody I see is like, why isn't the dad in prison? But we're going to so anyway, I'll get to that. But basically, so it gets to the point where, like, all of the older kids and the husband are now out of the house. So it's just Ruby, Jody, and the 4 younger kids, because there's 6 kids. So there's 4 younger kids. They never show their faces. They're all blurred because I think they're still minors. Yeah. And if you don't know the story, they were essentially, I think 2 of the kids were out of the house, but the other 2, the 2 youngest, were being, like,
tortured
in
they
the
were
house.
Emaciated, meaning that they were like so
Starved.
malnourished.
Yeah.
You could see their bones and
tied up with duct tape.
So they brought them to Jodi Hildebrandt's house, and one of the like youngest, the oldest of the youngest children, like escaped. He and went to a neighbor, and he was like, "Hey, I think I need to call the police." And the neighbors were like, "What?" And they could tell he had been starved. He had duct tape around his hands. And I was listening to this thing, like a lot of publications like won't put out like the pictures of the abuse because it's so gruesome.
Yeah.
And I like haven't looked this up. I was like literally reading a description about it because I don't want to see the photo. But it's like basically like there were rope burns and cuts.
They showed it in the documentary.
I don't think they showed like full, like I think they showed like what is like what people can handle, because they were like there were cuts into him where you can see literal tendons and you can start to see bones. Oh, they did describe that. Yeah, like I don't think they showed that. And then also some of the like torture that they were doing to them was they would take care of the wounds with it was cayenne, I think, and cayenne. Honey.
Yeah. They had the jar in the bathroom
to dress the wounds. And then they would also, they're in the middle of the desert, they would send like the son or the daughter out into the sun all day to stand out into the sun. And he would be like, I'm in like a lot of pain, like whatever, and she'd be like, go out and do that. She
would make them jump on the trampoline
all day, again, in the middle of the desert.
I like it's unreal, and it's crazy because again, you're watching this documentary. It's a 3-part documentary, which a lot of the time I'm sick of all these. Like, just make a movie, just make a documentary movie. But it does like really go into just like how it got from point A to like this, because it's just crazy. And so the reason that they were doing this, if there's even like a reason, is they thought these two were like demons. Like they
said they had been demonically possessed, these two younger children.
Yeah, and that's why they treated them like that, because they were like, we have to get the demons out. And they had so obviously once the son, who I'm like, and I say this because I imagine how, like, it'd be really hard to see that you are in a situation that you're in. Like, it'd be hard to be like, I'm being abused right now. Yeah. Like, I feel like as a child of parents, like, you've known your parents your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it'd be hard to see that. I don't know, because, again, just, like, Stockholm Syndrome or something.
No, I think it definitely would be. I think it gets to the point where you're like... like, he was starved so much that he was like... He literally went to the neighbor. He was like, I really need food and water.
Well, he was like, I think you need to take me to a police station. Yeah. But he went, because there's a Ring camera, and you can watch it on, like, YouTube or whatever. That's what I had seen. I remember the day that this news broke, I had no idea who this family was. Yeah. I had never, because I don't watch that YouTube. You know, like, why would I have heard of them? Like, you wouldn't have known them unless you're, like, a family.
So I have 2 things to say about that. One, about, like, the kid coming in the door. And this is not like, I was just like, wow, thank God that's not like someone coming to my door at my house. I would not be answering.
No, I know.
I would be looking at the Ring doorbell, I'd be like, I don't know who that is.
Well, seriously, because at first the kid, like,
which
Matthew
sounds so bad.
Well, Matthew and I were kind of laughing because like the man opens the door and he's just like, yeah, like after, because the kid was about to walk away because he had rang it like a couple times or whatever. And he goes, I think I need help or whatever. He's just like, what do you need? Like, he kind of seemed suspicious, and then once he saw like what the situation was, it actually really made me emotional because like imagine if he hadn't opened the door, he may never have,
because the houses are so far, you had to walk a block between the houses.
It's really creepy actually looking at the house again that Jodi lived in, because they were being kept at Jodi's house.
I forget why.
A little confusing to me because they were all living at Jodi's house. I didn't understand if Ruby was there too.
No, I think she definitely was there. I think they ended up going to Jodi's house because like neighbors and stuff were like getting suspicious of them at their house.
And then the other 2 kids ended up being found at like friends' houses or something. Yeah. So I was confused like why it was just those 2 younger kids. And by the way, this pissed me off too. So at one point they say, so the oldest daughter, the one who went to college, and she was just kind of like over, you know, she'd been kicked out of her bedroom. She was not on speaking terms with her parents at this point.
And I don't think she still is. She still, like, if you notice in the
she calls her Ruby.
She calls her Ruby, and she calls him Kevin.
She's not,
which
definitely
understandable.
Not still, but at the time, though, so she's in college, she sends, because eventually they did kick her out. Remember, she was with her parent, or her friend, those friends, that family friend.
Yeah.
They went to the house. I can't
remember why they kicked the oldest daughter out. She was in college, but they were basically like, they called her, they were like, you're off the car insurance, you're off the phone plan, you're off like whatever.
And she got in the car with her, because again, like,
I think it was just an isolation event.
It was, because that's what happens in cults is like you start to get isolated from people. Like, but the family friends are also seeing all this happen, and they're worried too. They're like, hello? Like, what are you doing? And so she
literally says, she's like, I can't imagine, like, that's your daughter. And she was like, I'm standing there with Ruby and her daughter, and the way that she was, like, talking to her and being like, you're on your own, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Is insane.
And so, she ended up calling like for a welfare check on her 2 younger siblings, because she was like, I think they're in the house alone. And they're like, well, have you talked to your parents? And she's like, no, like, I'm not on speaking terms with them, but I just would like somebody to go check on them. They do a welfare check. Nobody answers the door. So they're just like, sorry, that's all we can do. And I was telling Matthew, I was like, that's insane. And the judge would not sign off on a what do you call it?
Like search warrant?
Search warrant.
Yeah. Well, so it is insane, but it's, like, very realistic.
No, I
like,
know
I know
is.
friends who were, like, teachers, and they're like, I think, like, these kids are being abused, and they're like, well, is there any evidence of abuse? And they're like, well, not, like, physically, but, like, I can see,
I know.
And they're just like, well, we can't do anything about it.
And it's crazy. But what I was saying was, I was like, because I was telling Matthew, and I guess in Virginia, and again, this took place in Utah. I don't think we said, but they're all Mormons. Yeah. It was in Utah.
We can infer.
Yes. And in Virginia, there's no law about how old you can be to stay alone at your house.
Yeah.
So there's no, like, reason. So I don't know if Utah's the same, but at least, like, if that were to happen in Virginia, they'd just be like, okay, they're home alone. I don't know. Which is insane to me, because I'm like, these 2 kids, well, how are they feeding themselves? Like, you're not even going to just go check on them, but they can't. So, it was just kind of, like, crazy on that front. I imagine
there's even the neighbor where she's like, the police came and asked me, did I see any physical signs of abuse? And she was like, I said no, I didn't, but I do think there's something wrong. And she was like, yeah, I wish I had lied. And I was like, that could have,
so all of that to say, like, they finally, and they busted that door down. It was like, it was crazy. Like, the way and they deserved nothing less. Like, No, it was like the SWAT team literally surrounded Jody's house, busted in. They pulled her ass out of the house. Yeah,
she was like, I'm not leaving this house. And she was like, hey, why are you grabbing?
Whoa. Yeah. She was like, I have my attorney on the phone, and it cracked me up because they were like, okay, great.
But the thing that, I don't want to say, like, the funniest part, none of it's funny, but she has, like, the safe in the basement, and they're like, what's the code to the safe? She's like, I don't know, I've never used it, which is obviously a lie. And they're like, we don't know how to get in the safe. And then, like, one guy was just like, you know what, I'm just going to try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
Immediately
or whatever.
Works.
And it works. And like, literally, they have a recording it, and the guy's face is just like, oh.
Yeah, he literally, like, stepped away from it. He was just like, wow.
That's crazy.
And that's, unfortunately, the sad thing is that's where they found the kids.
Yeah. But
right?
that's also how much...
No, that's where they found all the prep. Like,
all the prep stuff, like the ropes and the duct tape.
The kids were in a closet.
Yeah, one of them was. The one that was left. But it's also how, like, it's crazy how much, like, not on top of the world they probably felt, but they probably felt like, yeah, no one can touch us. Because, again, at this point, this is, like, post-pandemic, and Chad, the oldest brother, explains this. He's like, I literally thought Jody and my mom were, like, divined by God. Like, they were sent by God to, like, do these things. And I think they thought that, too. And so I think it just was, like, you can kind of see, I would guess, I am not, like, a professional, like, you know, psychiatrist or anything, but just seeing the early videos, it's like, it seems like she has maybe either manic depressive or bipolar 2 or something like that. Yeah. Just like in the way, like, she changes. But I also wish the documentary had gone more into Ruby Franke's past.
I do too, because I guess what I'm confused about, because I just don't understand how somebody can be, like, brainwashed that much to turn. And by the way, I'm just gonna say, like, if you're watching the documentary, like, and, you know, she's calling her 2 younger kids demons, and they find, like, a whole notebook where she's detailing, it's literally, like, on the, they're dumbasses, they detail, like, two. Everything. They left, if you're gonna be that crazy and abusive or whatever, like, they didn't even hide it, you know? Yeah. They had a whole note, but they were just crazy.
I don't think they thought they were gonna get caught.
And also, they were just crazy. Like, you see the ramblings of them, like, of Ruby being like, because I think Jody is just Jody. I guess she just is, like, a cult leader. But Ruby, I think she genuinely thought these 2 were demons. Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, it's just like, the devil was, like, inside this woman. Like, genuinely. Oh, yeah. She is you look at her, and it's just like, who could do that to their kids? Like, just it's awful. Total...
And it's like they arrest her in her face. They're doing like an interview where they're
scary.
Just like they're asking her questions, and she's just like slow blinking, and then she's just like, I'm gonna wait to talk to my lawyer.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like
it
kind
was
of
psychopathic
crazy.
behavior, because the thing is too is I was telling Matthew, like,
It's
he was,
sociopathic is what I would say.
yeah, he was saying like the police officer woman, who I guess she was a detective, who was like interviewing her, was like, it was the most awkward interview of my life. And Matthew was like, that'd be you in that situation. Because like, why would that be the most awkward interview of her life? She's probably done thousands of those.
Yes,
like,
I literally was like, that's a weird thing
I
to
think
say,
she was saying though, like, because again, Ruby was just like slow blinking. She wouldn't answer any of their questions, and finally she just goes, I'm gonna wait till I have my lawyer. Great answer, by the way. That's what you should do in that situation. Meanwhile, Jody is like she's fumbling. She's like, I want to tell you guys, but my lawyer said to not talk to you.
She's she was like, I know exactly how words get flipped.
Classic manipulator.
And she was like, I'm on your side. I know like what, like I've been
like,
where you are. And they're like, okay, you psycho.
Yeah.
But I think that like Ruby
license.
Franke is for sure a sociopath, because the only thing we get into her past is when her husband Kevin talks about like when they started dating, he found she had this chart of all the guys she was dating, and it was filled out with like all the qualities that she wanted in a husband. It was basically like marked out or whatever, where it's like, oh, I don't think she ever even like loved him. I don't think she ever loved her children. I think she is mimicking those behaviors and mimicking to the point to where she's creating this online YouTube personality.
And I wasn't sure, so I could be wrong about this, so I'm not trying to be offensive, but I wasn't sure if that, because I missed the beginning of him telling that story, but I wasn't sure if that was maybe just like a Mormon thing. Like, do they fill those out?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that was just
I think
like
because he said he was basically saying it like, oh yeah, like I saw my name on this list, so I was like, I better like hit these qualities.
Okay, gotcha.
Type of thing. I've never
Again,
heard of
hopefully
anyone
that's not
doing
offensive.
that.
I just wasn't sure if that was like a normal thing.
I don't think it is. But I also want to go back to like just in general before all of like the actual like clear physical abuse happened. It was clear that she was mentally abusing these children for a long time, and there is a lot of like discussion and nuances around like the use of children in your like content creator lifestyle blog things. And I thought it was interesting. So I watched this documentary around the time I'm currently reading that book, where it's called Extremely Online by Taylor Lawrence, and the section is about mommy bloggers and how they really like escalated the blogosphere or whatever you call it. And I think it's interesting because we'll get into this when we talk about like Meghan Markle too, but like when it originally started, like the idea of this was there wasn't like a lot of photos and stuff, and like it was just like, oh, I'm telling you about my life. But now it's been brought in to the point where it's like, okay, there has been a lot of discussion, I think, lately. It reminds me of, like, when child stars back in, like, the 1900s and 1920s, where it's, like, they didn't have any rights. Their parents just got all their money. Yeah. Like, whatever. Where there's this scene that Ruby Franke does where she's like, oh, you guys, like, let's all, like, if you participate in this video, you're each gonna get $10. I'm like, $10?
They're the reason you're making this money.
Yeah, they're making, she admitted, she's like, they're making millions of dollars, and they're gonna get $10? That's insane.
That's why I said it was like their second chore. Like, because they also had their normal chores that I was appalled when actually at one point she said like they were cleaning the house. I was like, you're cleaning the house. Like, you're making them clean the house. Like, they're not regular kids at this point.
And this is also why I think Ruby Franke is like a little bit of a sociopath, because she also seems like the type of person where she was probably raised a certain way where she's like, oh, I have to have children. That's what is expected of me. But children, the thing about children is like, they're not going to do or be what you say or want all the time, you know? Like, they are going to have a lot of energy, or they're going to act out, or they're going to make you like exhausted or whatever. Like, that is what children do. And I think she just wanted people to be little puppets and play into her thing. And when they didn't, then she would freak out. But I think it's interesting, again, like getting into the morality of children as a product in your lifestyle blogs.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I firmly believe if you are a content creator, like if you're like because there's plenty of YouTube family channels. Yeah. I think they should all get welfare checks. Yeah. The same way that like I'm saying that people should check on them. Like,
oh, I thought you meant like
checks, like welfare.
I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
I think like child protective services or whatever should be like showing up to their houses, because genuinely like there's just some family, and again they were showing the B-roll of of these videos, and like it would just be her like talking, like smiling, and then turning and yelling and being like, do you guys like want to be part of it? Like, you need to be happy. At one point she tells her son fake being happy, and of course they use that, they use that in the preview.
Well, like, at one point, like she tells like the youngest girl, she's like, why are you being like that? Like, be happy. And she's like, well, I'm just being myself. And then she's like, well, you need to change yourself.
Change yourself,
Change yourself then. And also, like, I know, like, probably because she's religious, like, she doesn't use a lot of curse words, which it just made, like, sometimes her, like, the way she snapped, like, a little bit comical to me, where she's like, well, I don't care about that bull crap, and now you're making me use bad words. And I was just like, okay. Yeah. But I was gonna say, I think it's interesting, like, the whole concept again of, like, children for profit in these. I just think, like, the internet is crazy because it's been around for a while now, and it's still so unregulated in certain ways. And again, it reminds me of when child actors in the 1920s, they didn't have any rights, but now people are starting to introduce legislation where it's like, okay, maybe I'm 1 year old and my mom is making a profit off of me, of being my mom, and I'm in all these photos, some percentage of that needs to go into a bank account for me.
Yeah.
Whether I'm 1, I'm 5, I'm 15, like, because you wouldn't have this content without me. And it's obviously, like, it was work for them, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so, like, that's where the whole thing of them bringing Jody in was, because, like, Chad obviously started acting. He got, like, expelled from school, and he was just really acting out because he knew how to push his mom's buttons, because he was just, like, tired of it, and it was just affecting him in just, like, honestly, this way.
I think yes, and I think some of it, like, when you hear it back, I'm like, they just also sound like teenagers. Or,
yeah,
like,
they're
even
just
when she
being
talks
teenagers.
About, like, the demonicness of her, like, youngest children, I'm like, they just sound like
they're
kids.
Being kids. Yeah. Well, they probably were. We don't even know. I mean, again, they didn't really show the younger kids too much, but, like, I did some, like, because I think the documentary actually left out a lot. Like, they talk about, like, oh, like, she'd been starving her kids before, and they didn't go into it. What it was her daughter, like, one of the times had forgotten to bring her lunch to school, and the teacher called and was like, hey, your daughter, like, forgot her lunch. Can you bring her a lunch or whatever? And Ruby Franke was like, no. Like, she needs to learn that she either brings her lunch or she's gonna go hungry, and don't let anyone give her any food, and the thing, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, I kind of get what you're trying to do, but then the other point, like, I was listening to I think the podcast was called, like, a serial, so they were like, well, the difference is, like, if you're trying to create an adult lesson for when she's a future adult, an adult would have money and agency to be like, if I forgot my lunch, I can go get a lunch. And so it was funny to me because some of the stuff that they would do, again, where they saw it as, like, parenting, was, like, straight up abuse to others, because in the first time that they really get, like, canceled, and they call it, like, they're like, this was the first time that Ruby truly got, like, canceled, and it kind of changed everything, was, like, they it was when Chad was getting into trouble, and they made him sleep on a beanbag
in the living room.
They took away his, because they were like, children don't deserve privacy.
Yeah.
And
for 7 months he slept
7 months, and that. he got it back, not after he, like, showed improvement, but it was like, you know, it was like they would slowly start to give it back to him. They decided, because, again, Ruby would do this thing. This really, like, annoyed me. It was like she would interview her kids. So it's like they would be sitting next to her while she's filming them and talking. And it just was so ingenuine. Like, it was just, like, weird. And she posted a video of her explaining how Chad, imagine this kid. Like, imagine the times that you got in trouble as a kid and your mom is telling everyone.
And it's not even that. She would post videos where it's like, we're going bra shopping for the first time. My girls are shaving their legs for the first time.
Puberty. Like, puberty. Like, can you imagine? And, but I was thinking, though, like, and I'm not, obviously, wasn't the same level of punishment, but, like, there were times where, like, I would get punished, and I'm like, that would have been my ultimate dream, is to see my parents get, like, canceled for something they punished me with. Oh, yeah. Because then it's just, like, justification of everyone being like, yo, what? Like, that's so messed up.
But the thing is, it's like, it almost made it worse for them, because, like, they got canceled for it, and then
punished.
And then punished for that. Like, they doubled down on it. But no, yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree as well. It's just, like, interesting. Also, like, the interviews with the dad. So, the reason
this cuck.
He is an absolute wet noodle of a man.
The thing is, I think that he agreed to be in this documentary because he thought it would make him look sympathetic, because obviously the main question of this whole thing was, where was the dad? Which I thought that too when I had first heard the case. I was like, well, wait, I'm confused where the dad is in this situation. I knew they were separated, but I was like, the dad doesn't know what's going on. Well, no, because they isolated him, and he's such a little bitch boy, that he was just alone in his apartment, depressed, whatever. Okay. He claims he was brainwashed by Jody. Apparently he was, because this man, like, he also wouldn't text his kids back.
Yeah.
He blocked his kids' numbers.
Yes. And I think he was brainwashed by his wife, because you can see in the videos before that where he, like, there's a video where she's like, oh, like, you know, I thought, like, you were going to participate in this video, and, like, she snaps at him, and then he's just like, okay. Like, I don't think he really wanted
that one was really hard to watch.
Yeah. I don't think he really wanted to do any of this, but he was just kind of like, well, I, like, love my wife, and I think it all stems from her having a list of all these guys.
No, it was when the money came in. That's when because they show that. It was because at first he was like, he came home and she would stick the camera in his face, because they were like, there was no moment where she was not filming them.
Yeah.
They did not have like a genuine family life, because she was just always filming them. And so he was always tired of it. And there's like B-roll where it's like her just being like, are you going to help me out with this? And it's like, he's like, I don't know what you want me to say. And it was so awkward. And then it was once they started making money and the checks started coming in, was when he was like, okay, guys, let's film this.
Yeah.
Like, he was all in.
I'm curious, like, what his job was before that, or, like, how he paid for his apartment. But the thing about him that pisses me off, well, also, one thing, I think I put this on there, I was like, I think the tightness of your jeans points directly to how weak of a man you are. And I don't mean to be one of those people that's like, men need to be men, but I was just like, you're just like a very weak person, where it's like, your wife tells you, because you watched porn sometimes or something, it's like, you can't see your children or your family for a year. You don't talk to your children for a year. And what the problem with that is he's putting his wife before his children.
Well, yes, and
but I was gonna say, the tightness of his jeans, if you watch, like, it's crazy, because he describes himself as a nerd in the beginning, and then he, like, slowly, I think he, like, became, like, a hot dad online or something, and you're, like, watching him in some of these, like, scenes where I'm just like, his jeans are so tight, it's crazy. It's like, I'm like, just, what are you doing, man? Like, I would
like never have looked at that man and thought that as a hot dad.
But I could see people who were like,
maybe
okay,
at the time, yeah. Because I genuinely hate him with all my being.
No,
right now.
who does that? Who doesn't talk to their children for a year? What
makes me mad, I guess what makes me, like, especially mad towards him is, like, okay, so we didn't actually really go into it. So Jody and Ruby obviously get arrested. They're brought, you know, they're now facing, I think they were sentenced, I think they got up to 30 years in prison. So they're both, and by the way, they're both in the same prison.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which I'm kind of like, I wonder how, I'm sure they're separated, but, like, I'm just wondering how that's going. Because you know that Ruby is probably blaming all this on Jody. Yeah. There's no way she's not.
Which, like, when she goes to the sentencing, she's, like, crying, and she's saying she's sorry for her children, and the oldest daughter, Sherry, is like, I've seen her cry crocodile tears plenty of times. I don't believe it's genuine.
There's no way she's sorry. Why would she be sorry?
I think she's a sociopath. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, why would she be sorry? She did it. You know what I mean? There's no, like, you can't. Okay, so I also firmly believe this documentary was made way too early. Because, first of all, I don't think these kids have healed enough to be doing interviews. I was a little shocked at that. It's only been 2 years, I think. I think only a couple years. The dad also, and this is also why I say it's made too early, is, like, the dad, so the producer did not let the dad off the hook. He was kind of like, why did you react that? Like, he kept asking, and you never thought to check in on the kids? Like, he was really, like, putting him through it. And I'm saying it's too early because it's like the dad still cannot answer for why he acted that way.
Oh, yeah. And it's the same thing as, like, they show the video from when so the dad, okay, so backtrack. When this all happens, they arrest they arrest Ruby Franke. Ruby calls the dad and is like, for the first time in a year, she's like, hey, you need to go pick up our kids from the police station. They're going to tell you all these things. Like, none of it's true. So he goes to the police station. They're like, okay, obviously we need to interview you because your children have been severely physically harmed. And they ask him where he is, and he's like, I haven't spoken to my family in a year. Yeah. And even the police officer's like, okay, so this guy's useless to us. But they also, like, are trying to show him, they're like, can we show you the pictures of what has happened to your children? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
Because he says, he's like, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want them to put anything in my head. I'm like, how would they put anything in your head by showing you real pictures of your children severely abused?
Right. And here's my thing of him.
I would be like, I want to see this immediately. I want to see my children right now.
And he keeps saying things like, and this is, again, why I'm just like, it's strange how, and okay, they made the documentary too early maybe, but also, like, it's what's strange to me is that he's saying all this. This happened 2 years ago, I think, right? It was like 2022,
I think, is when they were arrested.
So 2 or 3 years ago. there's no way that he has changed. He's evolved that much in the last few years, and it's again why I'm saying I think this documentary is made too soon, because I'm just like, there's no way the kids have healed. But also like for him to be like, I was brainwashed. You're telling me it's only been. If it were like 10 years later, I'd be like, okay. But I'm like, there's no way the man thinks completely differently than he did 2 or 3 years ago. No. And also, again, like you said earlier, at the end, they ask him, like, do you love Ruby? And he's like, yeah. Or they say something like...
Which I get, actually. I think his response makes sense, sort of.
Okay, so here's the thing. I was telling this to Matthew, because I asked him, like, how would you respond? He's like, he's like, I don't know how I would respond. But he was saying, like...
I should ask Chris that.
Well, it's different. So here's the thing. We always say in senses of like, you know, I think like Matthew and I would love each other through anything. If I killed somebody, he would love me. But I think this is different than if I killed somebody.
Yeah.
Because this was like years of her abusing their children.
Because I think the difference is
slowly abusing their children.
Once you have children, and I don't think they did this, I think your children need to come before each other. Like, and she, like, Ruby Franke flat out says, she's like, I don't love my children unconditionally.
Well, she says I think they are, like, they love God and values more than their children. I think they say children. That at one point.
Yeah, she does. She's like, I love principles more than my children, which is the principles that Jody Hildebrandt put out.
Which is, to me, insane. Some people may agree with. I think that's insane.
I do, too. I don't know. But, so I think what's interesting is he's like, I think I wish he had gone more into this. He's like, yeah, I still love her because they've been married for like 22 years or something before all of this happened. And he's like, you know, I have all these memories of us like giving birth to our children in the hospital room. Like all of these, like they have 20 years of memories before she became like this psycho. And so I think it is hard. Like he has filed for divorce, and he also is now advocating for like not using children in like these social media content creations or whatever, alongside, I think, not alongside his daughter, but like similar to what she's doing. But I do understand where it's like, I don't think he loves what she did or who she is now, but I think it's hard to separate like probably like who your wife is and who the person you married is from like, this is like this horrible thing.
It'd be really easy for me to hear that and be like, okay, fine, if I didn't already know all the things he had done during the set. Because like again, he's just like, he was such a weak, these were his children.
Weak. Yeah, I think
he blocked their numbers.
I think what really damns him in the whole thing is like that he was just like, yep, I'll not talk to my children for a year, whatever you say. And it's like, what? That's like, it's just so
when I hear like he loves his wife, I'm like, yeah, I know you do. Like, it's not like that kind of love where it's like, but through it all, like, you know, whatever, like like if he had been like really advocating for his kids throughout this whole story, I'd be like, okay, I understand. Like, it's complicated. This to me is not complicated. He is just like a cuck of a man. Like, he is just truly, to me, I truly believe he should be in prison, just like Jody and Ruby.
Yeah. I think, like, it's just, I understand, like, the police officers being like, what do you mean you haven't talked to your kids in a year? Like, that's so insane. And it's like, no, like, unless you've, you know, obviously, like, actually abused the children, which they did eventually, like, did happen. But, like, let's say, you know, they actually filed for separation. Like, no court is going to be like, yeah, don't talk to your dad. Unless it's like he's a, like, you know what I mean?
It's so just crazy. That's why, again, I just don't feel any ounce of sympathy for him. I keep calling him a cuck. Cuck is, like, too, like, not even strong enough a word. I think, like, again, I think he is almost as...
I can't even think of the word like, to describe him. He is like literally a malleable piece of Play-Doh. Like, if someone says something, he's like, yeah, I'll do that.
And so to see him doing interviews with Chad at Good Morning America, I'm like, I don't want to hear from you. I'll hear from Chad. I'll hear from the Cherry or whatever the daughter's name is. Like, that's
Sherry.
I think I said Cherry. I didn't say Cherry. It sounded like Cherry.
I thought you said the Cherry. I was like, wow, that's crazy if she's going by that. Like,
the Cherry.
If that's what she wants.
Sherry or Brad, I'd be like, sure. I don't want that dad in any interviews. Go into hiding. Go into hiding, please. Yeah. Because, like, no one wants to hear from you.
Yeah. This is, like, the one point that I agree with Jody Hildebrandt on, where I'm like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Jody had some points there.
Yeah. Everything else, horrible. She's a horrible person, to be clear. Awful person.
God, I really wonder what it's like in that prison.
I do too, and it's interesting because they, like, you know, insinuate that they were lovers, but it's also just like, it's only two people you know. And also, like, child abusers, like, stuff like that, like, they get abused in
Yeah,
prison.
they're
Like,
fucked.
yeah.
Well, I think they have that against them. They're also famous, kind of. And then also, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, I am curious if they're, like, allowed to interact. But the thing is, they're not probably together at this point because, like, I'm sure Ruby has turned it around on Jody, if I had to guess.
Can I be honest? Like, when I first started watching the documentary, I was like, it's kind of weird that people are so into this woman. I was like, she's, like, really annoying, and I'll be honest, like, kind of tough to look at. And then as it, like, time kept going on,
Ruby?
Yes.
Oh, I think she's really pretty.
She got pretty.
This
she's sounds
gawky.
bad.
This is how I describe her. She's gawky.
Yeah.
Lanky.
Yes, she is. But I think even in the beginning, like, the way she would, like, talk to the camera, like, it was, like, her mouth or her expressions. I was just like, it's crazy that people are, like, really into this. But then I was like, oh, that's right. She's a thin, blonde, white woman.
Yes.
So, of course, people are like, yes, I love your lifestyle.
God. The reason I told you to watch this, I'm glad that you watched it because it's so much more fun. Not that I would call this fun, but, like, so, it's more whatever to talk about it with somebody who's watched something.
I know. That's why whenever I watch something, I'm like, hey, you should watch this.
I know. But it's...
And then you're like, and no.
But there's like certain things where I'm like, I know if you watch this, you would have a lot to say. Like, I just know, like, whatever. So even though I hated telling you to, like, watch this documentary about child abuse, I was like, I need you to watch it solely based on the demon possession scene, because I was like, this is amazing.
It's crazy.
The Jody being possessed by the demon was one of the, like, funniest things I've ever seen. Like, it was truly, like, it was just so hilarious to
me. Think just seeing also, like, the way her children are just, like, talk back to her. And again, like, the way she's like, bull crap. Or whatever, like, oh, sugar. Like, she didn't say that, but, like, you know, I forget.
But Jody going, she's mine, was, like, truly a work of art.
Did I also tell you that I learned that before, like, all this happened, that, like, you know, Ruby started her brand. She also started a clothing brand. Do you want to know what it was called? Ruby Doo.
No,
it went very poorly, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Just based off the name, really. I'm curious, like, from your perspective, what do you think it is that made her? Because she was very popular. She was making millions. She was, like, one of the biggest vloggers on YouTube for a while.
I know. I don't know what made her, but I do, like, when she pointed out that, like, the two older kids... and I'm going to say why. Because, like, I think back to the Kardashians. Like, when I was, like, 10 watching the Kardashians, when I would, like, I loved the episodes when, like, they showed Kendall and Kylie.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, as kids who are watching the videos, it's like you get excited to see, like, kids your age. And, like, and especially with that situation, because, like, there was a kid that a lot of girls clearly thought were really cute. And so I think that that's what made them big. I don't know about Ruby herself, but maybe just because it's, like, it's fun. Sometimes it's, like, fun to watch videos, like, home, quote-unquote, videos of people being normal, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
And just seeing, like, you know,
it's
their
interesting
lives.
That you bring up the Kardashians. I was literally thinking earlier, as I was, like, furiously cleaning my house thinking about this. I was like, you know, what's really that different between, like, what Ruby Franke was doing and what the Kardashians do? And I think the difference is because it's on television, like, the kids, one, have to consent to it. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think Kendall and Kylie had to consent to anything. It sounded to me like they were, like, just forced to do it.
True. But two, also the main thing is they have to be compensated in a way that's separate from their parents. Like, I'm pretty sure legally, like, now
I don't know how YouTube works. I don't know.
They don't have anything for that now.
Still?
I'm pretty sure, like, still. I think they're, like, trying to put in, like, legislation now for it. But because it's, like, they're like, well, it's the internet, so it's different. Like, you're creating this yourself as opposed to, like, oh, a network is creating this.
Well, there's a family who when I was saying they should do wellness check, whatever.
Yeah, wellness checks, yeah.
Families. I was immediately thinking about the LeBron family, they're a YouTube family, and I've seen them because you've probably seen, it's like, it's a family of just blonde people. It's like, it's this woman, and she already had a daughter from, like, a previous relationship, and then she got with this guy, and the guy, who was, like, much younger than her, would do videos with the daughter in the car, and they would just, like, do singing videos. They're like, they're just a beautiful family.
Yeah.
And they became viral. I blinked, and all of a sudden they have 5 kids now. So it's, like, a huge family.
Yeah.
And the oldest daughter is, like, you know, maybe 12 now. But I was thinking about them because the oldest daughter, I don't even know how I know this, like, how I've just seen videos of them, but I remember one video of them pulling a prank on their daughter, telling her that, like, they had to give their dog away. And they filmed her sobbing as they tell her this. And they're like, just kidding. Like, they're pulling a prank on her. Oh, it's like that one. And then also when they announced to her that the mom was pregnant and they're having another baby. And obviously, you know, because kids, I guess, I wouldn't know this, but, like, I guess kids have complicated feelings when they're told that they're going to get another sibling.
Yeah. You say I wouldn't know this.
I mean, I wouldn't, but I know my parents used to threaten me with, like, getting another kid.
That's
or having another kid. Like, because they knew, like, I know how I would have reacted. So, like.
You wouldn't want another. I was always
like, let's
have
siblings.
Another baby. Meanwhile, my parents were like, no.
No, my parents would, like, threaten me, like, jokingly. They would be like, we're gonna, like whatever. Like,
that's so funny.
No, because I so badly did not want other siblings.
Wow.
Only child through and
I'm picturing, you know that scene from the Rugrats where it's like Tommy gets that crazy, like, older baby brother? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
And it's like a gross brother and he has, like, the nightmares about it. And it's, I think it's like,
maybe. I'm sure I've seen it.
I'll pull up a clip.
I don't have a ton of memories of Rugrats. Like, I know I watched it, but I don't.
That one is pretty horrible. That baby is horrifying. And I'm like,
It's big. It's a big baby.
It's a big.
I think I know what you're talking about then.
It's like, I literally, like, this is exactly what I imagine you. Rugrats, big baby. This one.
Yes.
Big boy.
Big boy. Yeah, he's scary.
He's scary. The way he, like, eats food is disgusting. And I'm just imagining, like, this is what young Molly. Oh, it happens to Angelica. That's what it is. This is what young Molly.
And I was Angelica.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Actually, yes.
Hey. She's like a nasty girl. Wasn't she like a nasty character?
I think she was just older.
I thought she was like the antagonist of the show.
I think they act like she's the antagonist because she's older.
I love that she was probably like 3 years old.
Yeah, she was like 23.
What was I saying? God, where was I going with? Oh,
this is literally you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's horrifying. That's such an evil laugh. I'm scared. That was me though.
Lips. Why is it like that?
Because I would have to share Christmases with another kid. That's horrifying to me.
Oh my gosh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so what I was saying though was like this poor kid is being told with a camera shoved in her face that she's gonna have another like a little sibling, and she's crying because she's just like whatever. She has mixed feelings about it. That's the kind of family, though, I'm like, after watching this Ruby Franke documentary and knowing all this stuff, I'm like, someone go check on that family and make sure those kids are okay, and that the daughter is, like, making money, has an account with her money. Like, the idea of, like, because I know as a kid, like, I was telling Matthew when we were watching the documentary, my dad used to film a lot. Like, he used to have, like, we have so many home videos because he was always filming. And, like, you see in the videos, like, my mom being like, put the camera away or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
that's funny.
But just imagine that now being like, and like I would get annoyed or whatever, and like, but imagine that being posted somewhere.
Yeah, like it's funny to watch it, like, oh, it's just the three of us now, and it's like, but now everyone knows when you hit puberty,
right? And like our shit, like that's creepy.
Yeah,
and also just be afraid of perverts on the internet. Like, you know, it's not all just kids watching your videos. Maybe there's like some creepy perverts.
Yeah. Well, so that kind of like brings, well, not the pervert part, but like I think it's interesting, like why she got famous and kind of this like, I think there's like a trajectory in media recently for like the trad wife lifestyle, which is kind of like, usually I see traditionally like with the ballerina farm and everything, like it's usually like very Mormon oriented, but I do think, to transition into our next topic, of Meghan Markle with Love Meghan. So with Love Meghan? Yeah. With love, comma Meghan.
It's like she's,
So this has been like a hot topic recently, and it's interesting because I think like for the same reason like Ruby Franke got popular is kind of like why we're seeing this trend in like the happy homemaking type of thing, where it's like, oh yes, like the perfect family, you know, like the perfect life, like whatever. And so I don't think you said you haven't watched any of the show, right? But you've seen clips.
I've just seen clips, so I feel like I can speak on this.
Yeah. So I really, and as listeners will know, I've watched a lot of bad stuff for this podcast.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say I love like the monarchy.
Oh, I do. Like... I know a lot about. I know like we had a whole revolution to separate from them, but like I love the monarchy.
Alexa wishes she was
However,
British.
Charles is not my king. Anyways. Well, he never was, but you know.
Well, he literally was not your king.
Yeah, but he will never in my heart.
Okay, all right.
But anyway, so like when this came out, I watched the Meghan Markle documentary. I watched the interview. I do need to still read Harry's book. I'm curious about it.
Because I want to give them their privacy, so.
Yeah, what is it? Was it South Park where they're
the privacy tour. That's my favorite, because shut up! Like, just go away!
But at the same time, I'm like, I can kind of see why Meghan Markle is doing some of these things, because...
Privacy. Give us privacy.
Because, like, yes.
Sorry.
No, because, like, she is an actress. Like, this is what she wanted to do. Even before she met Harry, she had her lifestyle blog or whatever. Yep. So she came out with the show. Netflix put $100 million into this show.
Into what?
Into, like, I guess paying them. The house that...
Oh, paying them, sure.
The house that the show is shot in is not her house. Which also brings a different, like, people have said a lot of critiques about that. And it's for both seasons. So it already has a second season that's coming out in autumn. It's already been shot, whatever. So basically the premise of the show is each episode, Meghan Markle has a quote-unquote friend.
Who she's never met before in her life.
Yeah.
You would never know these are her friends.
Except for the first episode where it's like, one of them, I think he's the makeup, he was like the lead makeup guy on Suits. And it's like, oh, we've known each other for years.
She acted like she never knew. Like,
the way they talk to each other is so stiff. And, like, you can tell, like, he's asking her questions where he's like, yeah, like, you worked really hard on Suits. Like, you would be acting all day, and then you would be doing your lifestyle blog. Like, you just never stopped working, girl. And she's just like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And so it's basically, like, each episode is, like, a different, like, hostessing, homemaking tip type of thing. It's very Martha Stewart, Ina Garten type of thing, except... I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm a bad person to give this perspective because I don't like these kinds of shows in general.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why I didn't watch it.
But this particularly, like, I felt very validated by the rest of the internet, like, saying the same thing. This was one of the most boring things I've ever tried to watch. Like, I couldn't get through the first episode. Like, I was on the second episode when you came over, only because I stopped. There's 15 minutes left of the first episode. I was like, I can't do it.
Well,
Get me to Mindy Kaling.
I know, and I'm sure that was, like, the last episode, probably.
No, it's the second episode, actually.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were waiting. Whatever. Anyway, I think the problem with the show is, like, it's somebody who is trying so hard to be authentic.
Yeah.
Yet she's the most inauthentic person I've ever seen.
And the thing is, like,
I've always felt that way about her.
Oh, she's very inauthentic. But she tries to be. Like, even in her documentary, she talks about, like, the first time that Kate and Will came over and how, like, it was uncomfortable because she was like, oh, they were, like, dressed kind of nicely. And she was like, I was in ripped jeans and my bare feet. And I was like...
The prince and princess are coming over and you thought it was okay to wear ripped jeans and bare feet?
Not even that.
Are you stupid?
It's your boyfriend's or fiance or whatever he was at the time... family.
But that's what gets me is, like, she's trying so hard to be like, I'm just a clumsy princess, like, Princess of Genovia, whatever. Like, you had to take so many. Like, we watched The Crown.
Yeah,
I know they have to take so many classes. They have to do so much in preparation to be part of this family. There's no way that you thought, like, it was okay to do what you were doing.
Well, I think from, like, start to finish, it feels inauthentic. And so, like, that's why I want to say the thing about the house. So it's supposed to be about, like, her homemaking. In the first episode, first of all, it starts out, she has this whole farm where she, like, has all these flowers. She has all this like livestock.
But it's not her house.
Has bees. I don't know if the farm is her house or not, but like when she's actually in the house, she makes a point to say like, this is not my house. And you can tell like she's like searching. She's like, oh, like where's the, like she doesn't know where everything is.
And that's not crazy because to be fair, like Selena Gomez has a cooking show for some reason. And she also did that. She was in like, literally was the Hannah Montana house in Malibu. Yeah. Like she also did not film at a house.
But I think what's weird about it is like, it's not just cooking, it's like hostessing, homemaking. And she says, she's like, I didn't want to film crew of 80 people around my house with all my children. Yeah. But it's about
worldwide privacy tour.
Yeah. Your house and your children and like all of the stuff. So it just feels really like, it feels inauthentic. And then like, again, you can tell the scripted questions. And then it's just like, it feels inauthentic because she'll be like talking about hostessing. She'll be like, yeah, and you can throw together like a thing for a garden party, like on a budget. It doesn't have to be like super crazy or super fancy. And like, then she puts it together. I'm like, that fruit tower that you just made, I would honestly put me back a hot minute, you know? Like, it's maybe like, what is your budget as like an ex-royal, you know? Like, I don't know if you doing something on a budget is the same as me. And also like, so I was telling you earlier, I was like, oh, I wish we were recording right now. I had so many thoughts about this. I was like, I think what is really like out of touch with reality is that Meghan Markle is like basically the whole thing is about a luxury of time. You know, she's talking about all these like hostessing things where like the first episode she's putting together, I thought this was so stupid, Molly. She's putting together these bath bomb things that she's like, when guests come over, they can go to our guest house and they can take a bath, and like, how nice is it after all of like, if you've traveled or you've done whatever, like you can take a lavender bath in our guest house. I was like, one, how many people have a fucking guest house with a bathtub in it?
Right.
Two, how many people have guests coming over where they're like, yeah, I'd love
I want to take a bath. Yeah.
Three, who is this for? Who has time to put together bath bombs before they get to, like, before their guests come over? You know, like, for the regular person who's like, I'm working a 40-hour work week. I don't have kids, but most people do. I have a life. Like, it is a lot for me to clean the house and make dinner, like, before you come over on Mondays, you know? So I can't imagine, like, the people
you don't
that...
have to clean the house?
I do. It's really bad after a Sunday. But, like, not, like, the whole... But do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm, like, picking up. Like, I'm putting my dirty underwear on the... Because I'm, like, I'm also, you know, working and stuff. Yeah. And I'm, like, much less... Imagine if I was, like, here's a frittata that I just... She literally, like, in the second episode before, she was like, oh, Mindy's about to come over, and I realized I don't have anything to feed her. Let me...
Isn't it a cooking show?
Yeah, which is like, and the way she says it is like, sometimes I think she knows these lines are kind of stupid. So she's like, let me whip up a quick frittata with whatever veggies you have in the fridge. I'm here to say right now, except for the, oh, that's Poe. Except for the veggies that like I put into our dinner tonight, I looked in my veggie drawer, I'm like, these are all old. These are all rotted because.
Well, it's not her kitchen, so right. Of course it's.
I'm like, whatever veggies I put in the fridge, I'm not just buying a stack of peppers in case Mindy Kaling comes over.
But again, they stocked the fridge. Like, there's nothing authentic to this.
No, that's what's crazy. Authentic. And again, it's like the luxury of time. It's like, again, this is for the type of person who doesn't have a full-time job, who has nannies for their children, who's like, let me go and she was like talking about how she makes all these jam preserves, and she was like, yeah, like I just want my children to associate me like, oh, mom's making preserves again. And I'm like, nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
Most people are doing like Hamburger Helper.
Yeah, no one's
because they're coming home from work, they're exhausted, they have kids screaming at them, and it's just it feels so inauthentic. And I think what makes the inauthenticity inauthenticity of it all is, again, like the luxury of time and energy. Okay, so like, let's say, yes, you know what quote I hate is where they're like, oh, you have the same amount of hours in the day as Beyonce. Have you seen that quote?
No, but that's stupid.
Yeah, and this is what this whole show reminds me of. It's like, maybe I do, but I also don't have people to take care of my children. I have to come home, I have to do the dishes, I have to vacuum, house. I have to clean, I have to like put myself together. And it's like, by the time I do that, or by the time what is wrong with me? By the time I finish that, I am not like, let me make a bath bomb for my guests. Let me make a frittata out of my old veggies in the fridge.
And I guess my main question for this is like, who asked for this show? Because like, that's what I get. Like why? Okay. How, first of all, you're not filming it in your house, so what is it that you're showing us? Like, cooking? Like, and your cooking is weird. It's not anything that anybody else, like, is wanting
a lot of chefs have, like, been giving scathing reviews of it.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's gotten horrible reviews. So I'm shocked that they're making a season 2. It's just for people to continue to make fun of it. Like, it's not like anybody likes the show. They basically have
to make a season 2 because they already filmed it. Like, that's what $100 million was.
Yeah.
Like.
But my favorite was, and I think it must have happened in the first episode because it was for her friend from Suits. Oh, she knows he likes peanut butter pretzels or something like that. So she takes it out of a bag and puts it in another plastic baggie. Yeah. Like, she takes them out of this the bag and then puts them in a plastic baggie and like ties them up, and everyone's just like, why did you do that? What are you like? It's just like things like that, and where it's just like, what are you doing?
So full disclosure, like the first episode was the only one I watched fully, and you can tell even he's just like imagine coming over to someone's house. They're like, I know you like peanut butter pretzels. Here they are in a silver platter. Like, what? Yeah. And he's just like, oh, thanks. Wow, thank you. And they do like candle making. And again,
also, they're not staying at that house. So what is she talking about when she says, here's the bath bombs? What do you mean?
He makes a joke. He's like, oh, yeah, like when we go back to your house. And he's like, well, your actual house or whatever, or something like that. And she's just like, haha, yeah.
Like, okay, it's so they are staying at her house, I guess.
And it's interesting because, again, like thinking about like what made Ruby Franke so popular and like the rise of of the trad wife so popular
Yeah.
is I think what makes like the draw of this like Meghan Markle thing very popular, where it's like this kind of like play on the idea of the luxury of time and energy, because it kind of goes back in time for me personally to when it was like, yeah, the man went to work and the woman like took care of the house.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't live in that society anymore. And I think it's interesting because
And if you do, that's fine.
yes, that's fine. But I'm going to get up on my soapbox here. I think I've said this to you. But my theory is, you know, like when we had the 40-hour work week, great. That was like, you know, not Harrison Ford, Ford Motors, whatever. Harrison implemented it. And then, you know, we had like the feminist movement that like was like, okay, we're going to like go, we're all going to work. Which is great. I wholly applaud that, but we didn't change anything about our
don't. I'm so mad at them right now.
But we didn't like change anything about our societal structure where it's like, okay, now both of us,
right,
both like, let's, you know, the preset like 1950s gender, man and woman, are going to work 40 hours a week. Now no one's at home. Like, it's like, now I have to do that, and I have to take care of, even if you don't have kids, it's a lot. I have to do my dishes, I have to do all of this. Whereas before it was like, okay, yeah, like we have one person designated this, we have one person designated that. But instead of when we like created this new like society structure, we should have been like, okay, well, now everyone's going to work 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have the 4-day work week or whatever. We didn't do any of that. And so I think like it really plays into this like almost dream of a life where it's like, I have time to make bath bombs for my guests.
Exactly.
Because most families don't. Most, whether, you know, you're interested if you're a guy or a girl or whatever, like most people aren't going to have time for that. But it's like such a nice thing to think like, well, what if I raised my own bees and had my own honey to put in my chamomile tea that I pulled from my own garden,
right?
You know? And it's like, that's a lot of work. You are not going to do that while working 40 hours a week. And most families can't sustain like, okay, yeah, one person's going to like stay home and do the home stuff and one person's going to go work or whatever.
I was just reminded too, there's like an interview that she did one time where somebody asked her like, what TV shows do you like? And she just like somehow went on this tangent like of like what it was like. She didn't answer the question. I don't think she ever said what she watches. It was just like she just talked about how she loves watching TV with her kids, and like, and it was just this roundabout way of like thing of like how she's normal. Like she wants everyone to know that she's normal, yet she didn't answer the question and say like, I watched The White Lotus. You know what I mean? Like it was like I don't think she actually answered the question.
Which maybe some of that is like the royal media training where they're just like say everything without saying anything.
So let's get into that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good segue into probably the most like what's being most talked about this show.
Oh, the name.
The name. So
yeah, give your background.
So Mindy Kaling is on an episode because they're
they are email pen pals. They don't know each other.
They clearly they do not know each other.
And Mindy Kaling, and this I think I read this online somewhere, has come out and like basically she said that she loved being a part of it, but she also has said like she was kind of in a postpartum daze when she agreed to do it.
Okay, whatever.
She was just kind of like,
sure. I mean, it's getting like I don't think you were in a postpartum daze. You have people on your team telling you whatever. Anyway, sure though. I do love Mindy Kaling.
Her episode, it was the one that was playing when you came in, is how to plan to prepare a children's party.
That's fine. I actually would die for Mindy Kaling. Like I love Mindy Kaling, so I'm gonna be in her corner.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna defend her with this. So like she's on so she you know, comes in or whatever, and they're talking, and she just goes, I just can't believe Meghan Markle does this. I don't even know what she was talking about, but she said something like,
she made like this fruit parfait, or no, she sent her preserves in the mail, and she was like, I never thought I'd be in a place where Meghan Markle sends me preserves.
Right, and like, again, the whole show is just them, like, each of her guests just, like, sucking her ass. Like, that's just, like, all they're doing. And so it's just, like, it's, again, that's why it's, like, these are not your friends. These are just celebrity guests.
Yeah. Also, I've never, like, the phrase sucking your ass.
I love it. I say it all the time. It's so funny to me.
I've heard like kissing ass, but
I know, but
I
heard once
so much more
somebody
visceral.
say that, and it made me laugh really hard, and so I always say that. It's so funny.
That's crazy. I love that. I'll be using that from now on.
So she was kind of doing that, and Meghan goes, it's so funny when you say Meghan Markle because you know I'm Sussex, right? Like she says that, and I'm so angry at that statement because after all of that, after all we've been through with these two who wanted to get away from this, from the royal family so badly, and now you're saying you're Sussex?
Yeah. And what's crazy is, so I like did a deep dive on this, and people have said they're like, okay, so technically, I guess like they like Lilibet and Archie were christened as Sussex, but like Prince Harry, his last name, it's weird, like the last names, like some people in the like have said like, yeah, she would go by Sussex, and then some people in the royal family would be like, no, she'd be Mountbatten Windsor, because that's Harry's last name, that's William's last name, until like now Williams goes by Wales, but before they went by like Mountbatten Windsor. And so people have said like that's not actually her last name, and it's also like, nobody's calling you Meghan Sussex.
And why would she make... I guess what my thing is like, okay, even if that was true, why would she make a point of saying that when, again, she's trying so hard to be this authentic, like, just normal person?
Well, the way she says, she's like, you know what, I just love that last name. Like, it's our little family name.
It's not a little family name.
It's the royal family.
You couldn't be showing more that you're royal. And the thing is, I don't...
Your royal is showing.
I don't want to be, like, a Meghan Markle hater, because I know, like...
I like her. I do.
After seeing this, I really don't, is the thing. But like before, I wanted to support her. Yeah, like I wanted to be like on her side. But the more I see of her, I'm just like, shut your mouth. Like, and I just mean that because it's just like, you're again, like, that's why the South Park episode is so funny, because it's just like, you really do try so hard to be like, give us privacy, like, we're normal, but then it's like, you just go out of your way to shove yourself in front of everybody.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just if you want to get out of the spotlight, or I guess they didn't want to get out of the spotlight, but they wanted to get out of, like, the royal family, but it's, to me, that's getting out of the spotlight.
The thing is, it's like, she just keeps saying, like, this is our little family name, like, our little family. You're not a little...
Stop being humble. Like, you're not.
You're not. And the thing is, like...
I feel like I'm yelling into the microphone. I'm sorry if I'm hurting everyone's ears.
Being humble, yes, is, like, a good thing to be and have or whatever, but you're not. Like, there's being humble and being, like, intentionally oblivious. I don't know why I'm sitting like this.
Alexa has her foot up on the wall. We are comfortable. We're angry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And, like, it goes back to, like, even in the Mindy Kaling episode, she was like, yeah, like, Mindy's, like, one of my mom friends, and, you know, you have to have mom friends, like, or whatever. And I'm just like, as though you don't have, like, a nanny and, like, a team to help you. And yes, you are probably more hands-on than the royals before you, but I don't think you're sitting there covered in baby shit at 3 a.m. every night.
No, and the thing is, so I think the reason that it's like they had to make this hard turn. I'm going to now, like, kind of go back and just, like, try to see things from their point of view. I think because of, like, everything that happened, it's like they now have to be, like, we're relatable, like, love, you know, like, we're just normal. And it's like, I understand where their mindset was, but it's just like, just chill out. We didn't need the documentary. We didn't need the book. We didn't need, because again, it's like you're doing all these things. Meanwhile, you're telling everyone like, leave, like, we want to be out of this, like, leave us alone. And it's like, so just leave us alone. Like, get out.
Yeah, like, I think about this all the time. Like, one of my favorite, like, I think Meghan Markle is actually very smart, but she says things that make in an attempt to be humble, make her sound stupid. And, like, in the documentary, when she was like, well, I just didn't know, like, that they would be racist. And it's like, the royal family.
Why wouldn't you know that?
The biggest colonizers in history. Like, you didn't know there'd be some, like, and it's just like, or she'd just be like, well, I just didn't think of him as, like, the Prince Harry.
That's what I said.
She was like, he's just H to me or whatever. And it's like,
I don't think she's trying to be stupid.
Why are you calling him H? Imagine if I was like
M and H.
Imagine I was like, oh, hey, C.
Yeah, I actually thought about that in the car the other day.
I think Chris would look at me and leave.
I was like, he calls her M? Why not Meg?
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget that. Anyway.
Harry is already a nickname for Henry.
And it just to go out of your way to say M. Like,
M. It's not the easiest letter.
No, it's not.
Maybe it was like V.
Well,
but
I remember
I had to touch my lips twice for that.
The first time I ever heard that nickname was like when it was James Corden, because of course they're friends with James Corden, which is also a red flag.
How many people are they friends with?
I don't know, but whatever. So they were
espresso martinis.
Harry,
really
I know Harry was doing a bit with James Corden, and he was like gonna call Meghan on his phone, and he was like, what is she under? And he goes, she's under M. And I was like, oh, they must do that for privacy reasons. You know, like sometimes people put different names if they're famous, like they put a different name or whatever. No, they just that's their nicknames for each other. I couldn't believe it when I first learned that. I was like, you call her M?
That's not even
that just like kind of blows my mind.
It's just wait, where was I going with this?
I don't know.
With like, okay, so she like when she's like, oh, and everyone needs mom friends, like she just says these lines that is just like you're so unaware. And there's like an episode, I didn't watch this episode, but I watched a lot about it and I read a lot about it, where I think it's with Roy Choi. He's the
I know who you're talking about. Hold on.
He's a chef. He's a very famous professional chef, and people have said that's the best episode because she's learning something from him. But it's like, you know, he says to her something like, oh, like, who would think, like, look at, like, I can't believe I'm with Meghan Markle or something. She's like, well, we're just both kids from L.A. And it's like, and yes, she was not raised in, like, some crazy fabulous home, but it's like, it's a weird thing to just have that line in there and then also be like, Meghan Markle,
with the context.
Meghan Sussex.
You're right. Exactly. Because, again, she went out of her way to correct Mindy, which was rude.
Yeah, and Mindy's, the way like, expression is just like, she goes, when she's like, oh, she's like, oh, well, now I know, and I love it.
Yeah, they're not
Mindy.
friends.
Yeah, they're not friends.
And, like, the thing is, again, she went out of her way to correct Mindy, like, embarrass her or whatever. And it's just, like, not embarrass her, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, she didn't have to correct her.
Right.
It's so funny that, like, you know it's Sussex, right? It's, like...
And it's interesting. Go ahead.
No, I'm still just, like, baffled by that comment. Because it's just, like, again, you're trying so hard to be authentic, and you just come off as so inauthentic. Like, how is that?
But what's crazy is, so I was trying to look up, like, some articles to read about this, and it's exactly, like, what I think she wanted, where, like, the articles were like, here's the exact type of, like, jars that Meghan Markle's using, or here, what nail polish was she using? And there's even, like, a part where it's, like, Mindy asks Meghan, like, oh, like, what are you wearing? And she's like, oh, it's like a Zara high-low. And it's like, yeah, but everything else you're wearing is multiple thousands of dollars. So you have this one skirt from Zara? Okay, cool. But also, oh, shoot, what was I going to say? What were we just talking about with him? Also, I think it is heavily curated by Meghan, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, you can tell the questions people ask her, like, oh, like, it's all, again, to suck Meghan's ass. And then, like, I think, like, when she corrects Mindy, it's, like, the only kind of, like, real point in the show. And it's interesting that they didn't edit that out because it does make her look bad.
It does.
But I think she wanted to keep it in because I think she wants people to be like, it's Meghan Sussex.
But that's
Stop calling me Meghan Markle.
But don't you think that's, like, what describes her as a person then? Yeah. That, like, she thought that looked good?
Yes.
That when everyone else was like, that was embarrassing. Like, that looked bad. Like, so it's just interesting to me how she perceive something, and I feel like that just shows, like, why they, like, the decisions they make, and it's just like they think that they are being authentic by writing a book, by coming out with this documentary, coming out with this cooking show that no one asked for, and it's like you look so out of touch, but you don't see it that way. That's wild to me. And
it's also, like, again, thinking about it as, like, I don't even know, it's not like necessarily a cooking show, it's like a hostessing show. And as she's, like, in the second episode, as she's, like, whipping up this last minute frittata from Mindy Kaling.
Last minute? How long does it take to make a frittata? A long time, right?
It's not crazy intensive. I fucking hate frittatas, so, like, fuck a frittata. But it's not, like, hard. I just don't like the texture of it.
Yeah.
But as she's doing it, she's also, like, preparing, like, a cup of tea for one of the fucking, like, cameramen or whatever he is, or the producer, and he's just like, wow, like, the hostessing never stops. And she's like, well, like, when you're hostessing for people, like, it's not just for one. It's not always just for one or whatever. And I was just like,
yeah,
like,
because you're hosting people. What do you mean?
Yeah, and I just am like,
that's nice of her.
Who has the time and the energy?
I don't know.
To go out and cultivate your bees every day.
So here's what I want from her.
Just go to the store and buy honey.
Go back into acting. What would be so bad about that?
I don't think... Here's the thing. I think this is actually what she always wanted to do. Because when she was doing Suits, she also ran that lifestyle brand blog called The Tig.
Okay.
Which I don't know where that name comes from, but I really hate it.
I don't like it.
It's very comparable to, like, Goop or
right.
What's Stoosh?
Or what's fucking Kourtney Kardashian's?
Stoosh, I think it's
no, Poosh.
Stoosh.
That's the ugliest thing ever. I was like, who did
she hears that and immediately sues us just because of how bad it is. Anyways, and so I think she's always wanted to do this like kind of lifestyle, like look at me, look at my life as a wife. Like she wants to be a like homemaker, like a lifestyle brand type person. But again, like, and this, so I listened to this podcast called Straight Up, and they made a good point, and they were like, the problem with that is when you have a cooking lifestyle show, the person at the center has to be a personality. They have to have some sort of personality, and I think, like, I don't know if the royal training, like, got it all out of her or whatever, but I'm like, it is literally like a plank of wood in
like
that
stiff,
kitchen.
Yeah. I think what is, like, the draw is that it's, like, people want to see what she's really like. Like, they're just like, oh, it's mysterious. Yeah, and
I don't think
we're never going to know.
I don't think she knows. And that, like, brings me to our question of the week, where it was, if you could ask Meghan Markle anything, I think while cooking or whatever, what would it be? And I was asking, like, I told you guys I would ask, like, you know, is there ever a moment when you have downtime where you don't feel guilty about it? Because she seems like, to me, the type of person where she's always, like, I'm making bath bombs, I'm doing this. She's not sitting there watching The White Lotus. She's not sitting there, oh, I've wasted an hour on my phone doing this.
Yeah.
I think she's always doing something, because I don't think she knows who she is. I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, she has to constantly be, like, producing or doing something or whatever. And she says it's like, oh, because, like, I'm creative, or, like, it brings me joy. But I think it's because I don't think she can sit with herself.
Question, though. So she's, like, quote unquote, like, this, like, like, whatever, hosting, you know. What is Harry doing? What is his job? He has probably the same amount of job as she does, right?
Yeah.
He's not even doing anything.
No. And they actually only show him, I think, once. It's in the last episode where she's, like, hosting a party for the launch of her brand. It used to be called American Riviera Orchard.
So now it's just promotion for her brand.
Yeah, and now it's called As Ever.
Huh.
So it's all promotion for her brand. But I don't know what he's doing. I think he, like, supports charities. He does, like, press stuff. I don't know.
It's almost like what you do as a prince. Yes. Like, it's kind of almost the same thing. And that's what people have
said, like, when they step back from quote-unquote royal duties. It's like,
you're still doing royal duties.
Yeah,
it's, like,
you just
literally
don't have,
what
like,
they
kind
do.
of, like, the protection or, like, the PR of the royal house.
Right.
Whatever.
I don't know. And again, I don't want to be she has gotten so much hate, and I don't support that. But it's like almost like she's trying there's the try hard of trying to be like trying to be authentic and humble. I can't. It's not.
And here's the thing I want to say is there is a level where, like, remember when Anne Hathaway got, like, canceled for her earnestness? Mm-hmm. And I didn't appreciate that. Granted, I was, like, young at the time, so
you didn't appreciate what?
Like, people being like, she's too earnest, like, whatever. I think there's a difference between try hard and earnestness, and I think Meghan Markle, like, I think Anne Hathaway is earnest in what she's, like, trying to do, and I think Meghan Markle's try hard, where there's nothing authentic about it.
See, I sometimes was on the Anne Hathaway cringe train of just, like, she was a little cringe.
She is. Yeah. But I think she's just a theater kid who, like, loves doing theater stuff.
Yeah.
I think Meghan Markle really, really wants to control a perception of herself.
Yeah.
Which I get. I can't imagine everything she's been through in the media. And I also want to say, like, again, I don't want to, like, talk down to, like, mommy bloggers or, like women who do, like, these lifestyle things, because being a homemaker is a job. What you do, like, if you not work from home, but, like, you know, you are a stay-at-home mom or whatever, that is a full-time job that people tend to discredit and whatever. Mm-hmm. The thing is, it pisses me off that Meghan Markle is acting like, I'm a homemaker, I'm doing these things, they're so easy, you can do them.
When we know you have a staff.
You have a staff. You are not tending to that farm every day.
And I think what's people are just, like, really sick of, at least from my point of view, is just, like, the idea of them, like, you know, wanting to break away from the royal family. And I understand, like, okay, they wanted to break away from the royal family and do their own thing, but it just felt like they were saying, like, we want people to, like, leave us alone, and we don't. But then they're doing all this stuff, and it just feels so inauthentic.
Yes.
I'm curious.
And the thing is, though, I do think she really believes it.
I know. Do you think she, did you ever watch Suits or anything that she was in?
No, but I've heard she's good in it.
Was she a good actor?
Everyone says she was.
Okay.
Everyone, all my online
I never watched Suits. Is that a good show?
People who watch it really like it. I just have never watched it.
I just have never been sure if it's, like, genuinely a good show, or if it's more just, like...
Yeah.
Like, is it like Gossip Girl type?
I don't think it's like Gossip Girl. I think it's like a typical, what was it, AMC?
I don't know. I don't think it's AMC. Maybe A&E.
A&E, yeah. No, I don't think it was A&E. TNT?
I don't know.
It was one of
whatever.
But you know, like those typical shows during that time where it's like, this is a legal drama. Like,
but see, yeah, okay. So that's why I'm trying to get a feel for, like,
I don't think it was, like, as cheesy as some legal dramas, but I don't think it was, like, highbrow.
Okay, gotcha.
Either. I think it was entertaining.
Just curious
People
what
really
she was like. I would love to see, I need to watch, like, a scene with her. I just need to know how she was. Because that's, you know me, like, I love, like, actors. So I'm like, if she were to go back into acting, I'd be like, yes, girl. Like, break away from the monarchy and go into acting. Or do that.
Yeah.
But, like... Again, it's just this trying to be somebody, like trying to be authentic and not coming off as authentic is like what is driving me crazy.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think she could go back into acting.
No, she couldn't.
She's Meghan Sussex. And it's like, you know.
It's so funny that you call me Meghan Markle because, you know, I'm Meghan Sussex.
I'm telling you, she wanted that
left
in. If I
were Mindy, I would have walked out.
Yes, I'm telling you, she left that in. She wants people to call her Meghan Sussex. That's the only reason. I'm sure it bothers her every day she sees Meghan Markle because she wants to, because I think
it's a great name.
Yeah. It's not like, and it's kind of like, you know, when people get married and they're not famous and they're like, well, my name is like, now it's, you know, Alexa Xavier or whatever. I don't know.
Who?
What's the last? Alexa Smith. There we go. Anyways, you know, like, it's where people are like, well, that's me, like, that's my name. But it's different when you are famous. And also, when people are debating, I feel like nobody knows what their last name is. Apparently on the passports it says Sussex, but it's like, that's a title. It's not like your last name. But I know, think they legally changed it to their last name or something.
What? Yeah, that's the other thing is, like, it's not, that's what I was confused about this whole time. I was like, that's not a name. That's just a title, right?
Because it's like Prince William will go by Wales. Like, he'll be like, oh, William Wales or Kate Wales. But, like, that's not his actual, like, last name. Like, he is the Prince of Wales.
Yeah, I just thought their last name was Windsor. I don't know.
think it would be Mountbatten Windsor. Because I don't know if you remember from The Crown, it was a whole thing where she was like, well, I want, like, Prince... not Charles. What's the
William?
The dad of Prince Charles. What's his name?
No, Charles is. Oh, hold on.
What is his name? God. Oh, Prince Philip. Where Prince Philip is like, well, they're my children. They should have my last name. And they're like, okay, well, she's the queen. They need her last name. And then they eventually come to this, like, groundbreaking compromise where they have, like, a hyphenated last name.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, like, stayed true because Prince Charles would be, like, Charles Mountbatten Windsor. Mm-hmm. And then his children would be Mountbatten Windsor or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they, I guess, and so that's why I'm like, is your last name Sussex? Just... Nobody's gonna know. Like, nobody cares. You became famous as Meghan Markle. Nobody cares. Exactly. But she wants it so badly to be like, I am this person's wife. This is my family, we all share a name. It's like, whatever. Like, legally, you know, like David Tennant, his name isn't David Tennant. But as a star...
But the thing is, though, that, again, what is making people just kind of flabbergasted and just, like...
The way she said it?
Well, the way she said it, but also it's just, like, it's clearly such a royal name, and so it's just such a joke that it's, like, she's like, you know, I'm Sussex, when there was, like, a whole monumental, like worldwide, global drama of them breaking away from the royal family. So it's just hilarious that she's now, like, you know, it's Sussex. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
What was the thing you wanted to ask? Excuse me, Meghan Markle.
I wanted to ask her about her relationship with Kate. It's one thing that I'm just like, I so badly want to know.
Here's my take on that. As a royal expert.
Yeah.
So I obviously, I love Kate Middleton. I used to have, like, a calendar of her in my dorm room in college, and then when the year ran out, I laminated all the pictures and I hung them up.
Terrifying.
Yeah. I went as her as, like, like, who you want to be when you grow up.
Which I told you I did that in high school too. Well, I was a princess.
Yeah, I was like, I'm Kate Middleton. I one time had a dream that I taught her how to play viola, but that's a whole other thing. But anyways, I think, like, you know, no matter what, we love to peg women against each other in this society. And I think no matter if it had been Meghan, if it had been anyone, like, they would have compared her to Kate. What?
They don't like each other, Alexa.
I don't think they do, but that's fine.
No. It is fine, but I'm just like, I want to know. Like, I just want to know.
No, I think it's fine.
I'm allowed to know.
I think it started out as probably like, you know, they probably just didn't get along because it's like, okay, yeah, this is my husband's brother's wife. Like, why do you automatically need to be best friends with them? Like, you can just be like, yeah, like,
you don't
she's
need to
fine.
be best friends, but there was, like, they were saying stuff about, like, I think they imply that they were also part of the questioning what color the baby was going to be. Didn't they imply that William was asking that too?
I didn't hear an implication of William, but maybe.
I thought so.
I think it was from more like senior royals. But...
Yeah, I thought they had said like William did, but then they took it back. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so messy.
And I
was
think it's
really
more
messy.
so like William, like the thing is people, and what's crazy is even after that documentary, like people took away like the whole Kate and Meghan thing, and I'm like, what about William and Harry? Like William's press team putting out all this shit about his brother.
These two are brothers. Are they still? So I guess like what I mean is just like I just want to know what the relationship is. And by the way, I'm here to say the way that Meghan was treated by like this by British publication, I am
British
really,
publications are awful.
It was awful. It was awful. And you compare the two, like, I think we've talked about it before, but, like, the comparisons between, like, Meghan and Kate in those publications is, like...
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy. But I still want to know, like, I'm just curious since you asked the question. Actually, I think I asked the question, but I think I came up with a question. But I still am just curious, like, what like, I just want to know, like, what the relationship is.
Yeah. And
I want her to be able to answer me over frittata.
Yes. That she made, she whipped up prior to you coming. But also I would like to say that like with the publication thing, like Kate Middleton before Meghan Markle came along was like railed through the press. Like they treated her horribly. And then I think it's like when a new woman comes along, they're like, here's some fresh meat.
Really? I thought Kate was always like loved.
No, like when she was dating Prince William, they called her Waity Katie because they were dating for so long.
Oh, I thought you meant
then
like...
they would rip her apart for partying, and like when she was like in college, and like, you know, they treated her pretty horribly, like similarly to like the way people always compare it to Diana for obvious reasons, but where it's just like, yeah, like at certain points it was like she was scared, she was treated like horribly, and then it's like, okay, well now Meghan Markle comes along, it's like now this is a person, now Kate moves up in the rankings and Meghan Markle gets treated poorly.
I was a different treated poorly though. Meghan was like, because I mean there's like there was like a lot of racism involved.
Oh yeah,
so absolutely. I think it was just a different, maybe Kate was like party girl or whatever, but it was like with Meghan it was like a whole different thing.
Yeah. And it's just, how did we get on this topic? Oh, if they like each other or not. I'm just curious. I think they probably like, maybe they don't like each other, but I don't think it's like some huge thing. I think it's probably just like, I didn't, like it's not like this is some person I brought into my life, it's probably like whatever, she's,
well,
and then
I still want to ask.
No, I know, I'm saying, but I think like it gets played up in the media, like any type of feud.
So this is my turn, by asking, this is her time to come clean about it all, and she can tell her side. I think it's actually a genius question.
No, I think it is.
And
she'll
we
probably
should all
give some
applaud me
weird
for being
answer.
brave enough to ask a question like that.
She'll be like, oh, I wish the best for her.
No, I would ask for more. I'd be like, here, have an espresso martini that I made.
Yeah.
And like really try to like
it would
get
have
her
to
talking.
Be like, I should have prefaced it to be like, you ask her a question after giving her like some kind of magical truth serum.
Yeah, or because just try. Because again, like the question was
waterboarding her into an answer.
What would you try to ask? And that is what I would try to ask. Because like, so what's your relationship with Kate? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm just curious.
Did we get any responses?
We did. So did we get a response from Emily? Because shout out Emily. We do have to give her personal questions because she's not on Instagram anymore.
Yeah. She said she would talk to Meghan Markle about Princess Diana's wardrobe and her vintage jewelry she has access to. I don't know if she
does have access to it?
I don't know if she still does because they're like not royals, but also Princess Diana wasn't a royal when she died, so I don't know how that works.
So the only other answer we got was from my friend Justin. Shout out Justin. He said why she thinks her last name is Sussex.
Okay.
Which we've already covered.
Yeah.
We've already answered.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As always, if you want to answer a question of the week or see our general post, follow us at Poppin In Podcast on Instagram. We post one every week. Sometimes we are on time and sometimes we're late for them.
There's no late. We run this show.
Yeah, we run it. Yeah.
There's no time limit.
Exactly.
Meghan is so pretty though. Sorry,
she is
looking
so
at the photo.
like watching her documentary. What?
Good love.
Watching her documentary. I mean, remember after it was like Chris or someone was like, how much God, they were like, what do you think about it? And I was like, she is so absolutely stunning. It's crazy. And then I had to be like, and also all the other stuff too.
Yeah. No, I know. So are we,
yeah.
I think that's all we had to really say about that.
Yeah.
I just want to say a quick thing because I posted this on our Instagram story and I'm just looking at it again. A24 is coming out with a new movie called The Materialists.
Oh, yeah.
And it has Chris Evans, Dakota Johnson, and Pedro Pascal. And it's literally and Pedro Pascal. So he's probably, I don't know what his involvement is. But I think it's like a love triangle between the three of them. And
I love that
I'm
font.
here to say I've never been more excited for a movie before because I love Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal so much.
You also like Dakota Johnson.
And I love Dakota Johnson. Don't think she's the greatest actor, but I still
love the way
her.
she looks.
I still love her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway, so that'll be an interesting movie. It's also very vague on what it's about. It's the same director who did Past Lives. So I'm like, okay, so it's probably going to be
Past Lives?
I didn't, but I recognize that it's like a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so it's obviously going to be good. It's going to be more than like a romance, you know? It's not like a romantic comedy. Well, I just was looking at they finally released like how it looks. Doesn't it look strange though?
It looks like they were not in the same room together.
It
looks like they were cropped in together.
And it looks like some weird rom-com, but I know it's more than that. So I'm just so curious what the vibe is. And I think the trailer apparently, this will have already come out, but the trailer comes out tomorrow. And I'm like, what is this going to be like?
That's exciting.
Why do trailers always drop on Tuesdays?
Tuesday. Oh, I take that back.
Why?
That was embarrassing. I felt like
no,
a loser.
It wasn't.
Oh, thank you. Well, actually, you didn't say anything, but yeah.
I said no, it wasn't.
But speaking of another A24 movie that we went to go see, Mickey 17. It's A24.
Was it A24?
Yeah.
Oh. Directed by Bong Joon-ho, who did Parasite.
Yeah, and a couple of other films. So what's interesting...
Can I just quickly say, he also did a movie called Okja, I believe is how you pronounce it, which I actually love that movie. And I will say...
He did a movie called The Host that people talk about a lot.
Yeah.
I kept thinking they were talking about Stephanie Meyer's.
The Host. I was going to quickly say, though, like, so Okja is, like, very, to me, like, if you've ever seen that movie, I would compare Mickey 17 to the vibes of that movie.
Okay, interesting.
To the like, what's the word I'm trying to say?
Aesthetic?
Not aesthetic, but like the mood I get, like the tone of that movie. So if you're going into it expecting it to be like Parasite, no.
But it is interesting because I think this director really does like to touch on like social class, economics, and also apparently he's a big animal rights activist, which plays into this movie.
Yes.
So if you don't know, it stars Robert Pattinson as the titular Mickey 17, and a quick synopsis. It's adapted from a novel called Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton, and then of course Bong Joon-ho really like just wanted to add in 10 more Mickeys to it.
Yeah.
And it stars Robert Pattinson as a quote-unquote expendable, a disposable crew member of a space mission selected for dangerous tasks because his body can be reprinted if he dies with his memory still largely intact. However, with one regeneration, things go very wrong. So
I think it's very clear why I wanted to see this movie.
It's abundantly clear if anyone's a fan of this podcast.
And no, but for real, like I love Bong Joon-ho movies, so like that was like a big reason. But also Robert Pattinson plays dual characters.
Yeah, he's the star and the second star.
Yes. Because what ends up happening in the spoiler alert again,
they talk about this in the trailer.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, not spoiler alert, but whatever. If you don't watch trailers like Matthew doesn't watch trailers. So he basically doesn't die during one of his missions. So he comes back, he survives, but they've already reprinted him. So now there's a Mickey 18. So it's now Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 together. So it's like, it's two Robert Pattinsons.
Yeah.
What more could I ask for?
There's a character that plays his girlfriend Nasha, and when her name is, the actress is Naomi Aki,
who I love.
Yeah, and when there's two of them, she was like, "Oh my God, there's two of you!"
And she's so excited.
This is Molly's moment,
and I loved it because they were again. God, I love Robert Pattinson so much. He's proven to be just like an actor. I think the choices he makes sometimes are interesting, but I never think. Like, I always am like, yes, you know what I mean? And you probably don't agree, but I just love him as an actor. And I was just going to say that he plays the Mickeys very differently. He does this weird accent sometimes whenever he does any accent. But he obviously does an American accent in this movie, and it was funny because he apparently tried to, as Mickey 17, he tried to imitate Steve-O. That's who he based his accent off of. If you know Steve-O from like Jackass, he's
I don't watch Jackass.
You've probably seen Steve-O though, but that's who he based his voice off of. So I was like, okay, I guess I could hear that. It's an interesting choice to make.
I have a question for you, and I don't mean this like in a rude way, but like replace the main actor with anyone else. Would you like this movie as much?
Again, I would have seen it. Well, I love Steven Yeun, but also I would have seen it.
He wasn't in it as much as I thought he was gonna be.
No, he was in it the same amount I thought he would be in it.
Okay.
I love the director, so I feel like I had high expectations with the movie, and I don't think it met my high expectations because I know I saw it with Alexa and Matthew. Neither of them really liked it, but I liked it, and also I've talked to other people who liked it, so I'm not the only one.
What did you like about it?
You've asked me this now 3 times. I want you to know.
What was your answer?
I have answered every single time.
Was it Robert Pattinson?
No, Alexa, it wasn't. I also liked the movie. And again, I'm judging you with me saying this because you have literally asked me this 3 times.
But what did you like about it? Like, I want to preface, I didn't hate it.
I said this to you before, I don't think it was your humor.
But I didn't think it was your humor either, which is why it surprised me.
I like his movies. It reminded me, again, I saw the movie Ocha. Like, it reminded me of that. Like, that's the kind of humor where it's, like, kind of ridiculous. Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette play husband and wife. And their humor in it, they reminded me of, if anyone's seen, or Snowpiercer, which I actually didn't like Snowpiercer, but he did Snowpiercer as well. It reminded me of, like, Tilda Swinton's characters and, like, those movies, like, where it's just, like, it's, like, weirdly over the top. It's very weird, and it's kind of over the top. But I thought it was funny. And I just thought it was I thought it was an interesting story. Like, I'm not just talking about, so that's why I liked it, since you're clearly trying to get me to say I liked it because of Robert Pattinson. I thought it was an interesting storyline. I do think the third act was a little long and maybe could have been cut down. But I liked it. I think
it was fine. Like, I didn't hate it. I just, like, I probably wouldn't, like, see it again.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, like, sitting there like, wow, I hate this movie. Like, it was fine overall. I think Matthew put it very well, where he was like, it was just very overt. Like, everything was very in your face, like, heavy-handed in terms of, like, very clearly Mark Ruffalo was playing a Donald Trump character. Very clearly it's supposed to be about, like, immigrants and, like, us colonized. Like, it's just like all the political overtones were very much like in your face. However, I will say it's interesting, and this is gonna, like, we usually don't get very political on the podcast, but I was thinking about this earlier, where it's like interesting watching it as Mark Ruffalo playing like a Donald Trump figure, and you're just kind of like, who would fall for this? Like, who would, like, go into space with this guy and, like, whatever. And then you're like,
oh.
And
also, I do wonder if when they made this movie, did they think that Trump wasn't going to win?
Oh, I definitely think so. I definitely think, like, he was projecting, like, a reality where it's like we're making fun of almost like this.
Right.
This almost could have been, but it is our actuality.
And I think, like, and so also I thought, so there was that, and I understand that. I agree with what you guys are saying. But I also think the reprinting thing was interesting. I think that's interesting. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was his strongest of his movies, for sure. Like, no doubt about it. I don't think it was. But, like, when you're asking, like, what did I like about it, that's why I'm like, I've answered you. Like, I did like the story. It's okay. I'm a little offended because I'm like, I feel like you're just saying it because I like Robert Pattinson. And that's why I'm like, I've answered you.
No, I honestly don't have any memory of me asking that.
You've asked me this is your 3rd time.
That sounds
and I was actually prepared for you to ask me on the podcast, and I was prepared to say, Alexa, this was your 3rd time asking me. That's how well I know you.
I feel attacked.
I felt attacked. I like the story. It's not always about men.
I think the story, like, was good, but I do think there were certain points where it dragged. I thought the first half dragged, where I was like,
the exposition was long. Yeah.
And what's weird, I hate when people, like, when movies do this, where it's like the exposition is a voiceover, and then the middle is, like, no voiceover, And then the end is a voiceover again.
Well, because I bet if you were to read the book, you'd be like, oh, this must be hard to base a movie off of. And that's why whenever there's like a narrator, like a heavy narration, I'm like, oh, they probably had to really explain stuff.
Yeah. And I think like it's interesting. It was hard to watch certain parts. So like because of Robert Pattinson's character, again, a little bit of background, he ends up signing up to go on this like space expedition with a very Donald Trump-esque politician played by Mark Ruffalo, where he signs up, like he basically, his original body is killed and he is reprinted and with a special like human printer, like a 3D printer but for humans, with recycled meat and other like disposable products, and then his brain memories are like implanted into him through that. And I just think it like is an interesting, I think it is interesting, like, on the value of life and death and who gets to decide what lives are valued, because he's reprinted, a lot of people on the ship and even like Mark Ruffalo's character, they treat him almost like an object and not like a person.
Yeah.
And so you see like he's going through all these horrible deaths where it's like his skin is being melted off, he's being like, this toxic gas is being pumped into him, like all of this stuff. And it's like people don't really care. They're just like, oh, like you're going through this horrific pain, because they don't see him as a person anymore because he's been reprinted 17 times, but he still is a person, you know, like he's a person with a consciousness and a body and like can feel all of this pain. And I think it's interesting, like who gets to have a say, who gets to have a voice, who gets to determine who matters.
Well, there was also the storyline of them trying to save these, what are they called, crawlers or something? Creepers. And this is where it reminded me of Okja, because for those who don't know, Okja is like about like this like super pig that's created. And if you haven't watched it, actually, I think you would like it. Okay. Well, maybe, I don't know now, but it's worth a watch for sure. I would say it's probably better than Mickey 17. But it's like about this like super pig, and this girl that owns it is trying to like save it from like slaughter and like being made into like meat. And so it's like very much kind of a similar, like it's the whole thing of like, you know, like that like animal rights and stuff like that. And so the creepers reminded me of that pig.
Where like the creepers, if you don't know, it's like the alien life form that's on the planet, and they just assume that they're like idiot animals. They're like, we need to like exterminate them. They're like bug creature things, when they're actually like highly intelligent. They have like a type of dialogue of their own, dialect. Thank you. And even like, you know, it's funny because Nasha, Robert Pattinson's girlfriend in the movie, like, she contradicts Mark Ruffalo's character where he's like, oh, like, we need to get rid of these aliens. And she's like, you idiot, we're the aliens. Like, we're on their planet. We are the aliens. And it's just like an interesting... It's heavily political, and I think it makes a lot of good points. And sometimes I will say, I think, like, in this day and age, maybe we need political movies that aren't necessarily covert or, like, have a lot of subtext. Sometimes it needs to be a punch in the face. But the thing is, the people who are going to go see this movie aren't the ones who need that punch in the face.
That's true, yeah. It's not for everybody, I would say. And again, it's not, like, the best movie I've ever seen. I did enjoy it, though. And again, I think the cast was good, and I do appreciate, even I like love Robert Pattinson, but I also do appreciate his acting, where sometimes it's like he makes some interesting choices, but I always think, I guess I'm just proud of him. Sometimes I think about like the reason I love him so much is also because I'm like so proud of him, because like he really went from like, I think he's always been a good actor, but he really was able to break out of what was this like teen romance, like like just girls like loving him, and now he's like literally like, he's just like, to me, like a very good actor.
No,
and
I
just
think he is,
and takes on really interesting roles. He's like not afraid of anything. I saw him in an interview recently, and he was saying, or I heard him say, that he used to like, girls loved him, and he's like, now like guys like me too. And I was funny. Like, that's nice.
I feel like Robert Pattinson does seem like a genuinely nice person, but he also seems like the type of person where you wouldn't know that he's nice because he's probably like so awkward. He's
super weird. Like I've been watching a lot of interviews with him, like during this press tour, which I said I need to stop doing before movies. But anyway, like before I see a movie. Oh yeah. I watch too many
after.
But he's so like awkward, but just also like he just seems so like I don't know if he's nice he seems nice, but who knows? But he's just like, he's just so funny. Like, I
Yeah.
just love him.
He seems very, like, harmless in a way. Like, he's just like, yeah, I'm not here to, like, act and probably, like, eat some toast and then go home.
Yeah, he seems, like, weirdly normal, even though he's not normal, but he seems normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think overall, like, Toni Collette's character was really interesting, where she's, like, obsessed with making sauce out of things. Where I think I was reading something where it was, like, I guess, like, the director had been saying for all three of those characters to basically act like you're, like, not in the same movie, which is interesting because I'm like, yeah, they do sometimes seem like they're not in the same movie.
Yeah, and you went to the bathroom during a part because I just remember you coming back and me, like, explaining to you what happened. Or maybe it was Matthew.
No, it was me. It was when I went to go get the hot dog that never came out.
Oh, you were? I thought you were in the bathroom.
No.
You were checking on your hot dog.
Yeah.
But I think, so, yeah, so I think, like, me, fans of the director really liked the movie, but
non-fans did not, for
well,
sure.
And the reviews aren't terrible. I would say they're around, like, 78 to 80% or something, I think is, like, the Rotten Tomatoes score, which isn't, like, it's his lowest score, I think, for one of his movies, but I don't think, it's not terrible. Like, overall, that's not bad, but I think for his movies, it's maybe, like, not great. It's also, and I don't know if this has to do with, it definitely didn't meet its budget. Like, it was, like, it domestically, it didn't, like, do great over the first weekend it came out.
Well, there was no advertising
but I don't really, and also I'm just kind of, like, I think, like, I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm like, I enjoyed it. And I think, people who wanted to enjoy it enjoyed it. But the interesting thing is that it was only in the theaters for, it's going to digital release after only 18 days of being in theaters.
That's crazy.
And that is crazy. And I actually heard somebody say today, like, we were all talking about this movie going to digital release so early. And somebody at work, and somebody was saying, like, I don't feel, because, like, we're kind of like, that's not great for movie theaters. Like, that these movies are, like, coming out of theaters so early and going to digital release. Like, that's really bad for theaters. But somebody was like, I don't feel sorry for theaters at all. I have no sympathy for them because, like, they're so ripping people off with the prices of, like, food and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they, or are they because, like, people aren't going to the movies anymore?
So here's what I do have to say from, like, and correct me if I'm wrong to anyone who may know, but when I worked in the movie theater, the reason the prices of food are so expensive is because movie theaters actually don't get a lot of, like, they get barely anything from the ticket sales.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, so they have to make up for it by, like, increasing the, like, by making a bucket of popcorn $12.95 or whatever it is.
I mean,
and that's why they're like, don't bring any outside food or drink, because it's almost like if you went to a restaurant, you know, they wouldn't be like, yeah, sure, bring your own snacks. Like, that's basically like 90% of their money is coming from that.
Which makes sense. And I mean, especially, I don't know how movie theaters do it where it's like, I guess popcorn is expensive at theaters and drinks or whatever, but, like, we go to one where it's like they bring, like, meals out to you. Yeah. And me and Matthew went to see this movie, and Matthew and I got dinner. Between the two of us, our food was $80. Yeah. Like, yeah, that is crazy.
That is crazy. But the thing is, it's because I think partially it's both a restaurant and a movie theater. So they are having to, like, pay for the upkeep of a movie theater and the upkeep of, like, a kitchen and a restaurant, etc. Yeah. Which then raises the cost of price, except I don't think they're getting that much back from the cost of, like, having the upkeep of a movie theater. Mm-hmm. So it is a crazy expensive. I mean, that's why, like, when we go, like, I don't really buy a lot of food usually unless it's, like, I'm, like, really excited to see the movie, or I'm hungry, or, like, we go on Value Tuesday when it's like, okay, a hot dog's $3, I'll just do that. But it would make, like, I hope we live in a world where there are still movie theaters, because, like I've said, I love going to the movies.
Yeah, me too.
I know MoviePass has come back recently, and, like, I know a couple of people who have that. But, I mean, we mostly go on discount. Like, I would say when we go on our local theater, they do Discount Tuesdays, and it's $6 for a ticket, and I'm like, that's not that bad. When we go on not Tuesdays, I'm, like, floored.
I know. Sometimes it's like $14 or $11. Yeah. Like, it is, I don't know.
I'm like, well, I could just, and that is the problem. It's like, when it comes out on streaming, I could almost buy it for that amount.
Right. And I think that's why but the problem is, and so, yeah, so people are saying, like, you know, that's kind of the argument is, like, if it's coming out on streaming so early, then that's going to encourage people from now on to be like, I'm not going to go to the movies. It'll come out on streaming soon.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think the ones that come out on streaming so early are the ones who are not doing well in the movies.
Which is
like, for example,
true.
We wanted to see Anora, and it didn't, or not Anora, the Brutalist, The Brutalist, you had to buy that movie by the time the Oscars happened, and that movie had come out like a while ago.
Yeah, but that's different. There's no way that was doing well in the theaters. It was in like 6 theaters.
Yeah, true. But like
I would say that
Wicked,
like
for
Wicked,
example,
yeah.
Like that was in theaters for a while, and then it eventually, like, I think it just recently went to streaming.
And honestly, I bet if you were to look, it's probably still in theaters.
Yeah. But the thing is, not every movie can be Wicked, and I don't want every movie to be Wicked.
Right.
You know, like, I love a good low-budget film that it's like, yeah, this is, like, I can go see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish we had more of an audience for, like, indie films, because I don't want to have to, like, I want to go to the movies and see, like, this random weird-ass film that people unknown are in it, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I'm glad, like, Mickey 17 wasn't my favorite movie, but, like, I'm glad it was in theaters. I was actually shocked we were able to see it. I thought it was going to be one of those movies where it's like, oh, we have to drive 2 hours to see this movie.
I felt like we would just because they showed the preview at our theaters so much, so I was like, I think we're good.
They showed the preview for Anora a billion
That's
times,
true.
and then they didn't show Anora at a theater.
Not for a while, at least. I think they...
Yeah, they did for, like, the special, like, Oscar showing, but they didn't, like, show it. So, I don't know.
Very strange.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think our espresso martinis are dying down, and so are we. We're not dying, we're winding.
Winding down.
Yeah, I can see it, like, in our expressions.
Yeah.
I can see it in, like, the way we're
it's not even the espresso martinis are wearing off. I think we just talked so much.
Yeah, we did talk for 2 hours before we started recording.
All my energy just, like, went off, especially during the Ruby Franke. I feel like I was, like, literally buzzing out of my seat during that.
I know. I feel like I had so much more to say about Mickey 17, and I just was like, ugh.
I think we said what we needed to.
Yeah, I think so. But thank you all. If you've listened for this long, we appreciate you. As always, follow us at Poppin and Podcast on Instagram, again, to see our questions of the week, our out of context posts, and anything else we decide to post. And we would love it if you shared this podcast with your friends, if you liked, rate, reviewed, subscribed.
And
our 50th episode.
50th.
Oh.
Happy 50th episode. I don't think we ever said.
I don't think we did. Also, I don't know what word I said there. But here we are.
We should be way more hype about this. We're literally shaking hands.
Sorry, my hands
now.
are really dry.
Whatever, it's fine.
50th, we've done it a year. Well, we did our year.
We did our year, but it's just like, exciting that this is our SNL 50.
Yeah, we've actually done more than 50 episodes because we have our Diet Pop episodes.
Where's our concert? Why aren't people performing for us?
Yeah, exactly. Why aren't people bowing down to us? You know what they will?
Where's Paul Simon and Sabrina Carpenter? I think.
Yeah, where's Timothy Chalamet playing both Bob Dylan and himself? That wasn't for the 50th, but
it was his 50th season, so you know.
Yeah, true. But anyways, thank you all for listening to 50 episodes. And again, please like, share, rate, review, subscribe. We would love more listeners, but we're going to keep doing it regardless because we're having fun.
Yeah.
That didn't sound convincing, Molly.
I think we're just tired.
This is Molly's like way of being like, after we hang up here, she's gonna be like, actually, 50 was enough. and
we're good.
We're done. Yeah. But no, we'll be back. We have many things to discuss, and we'll see you next time. Bye.